and email and text. Do do do. Boo! Boo! Hello, everyone. Hello, Jordan Sheridan, live. Another cloudy, slightly drizzly day in Buffalo, New York, where we have been for several days. I'm going to wait till more of the Coup Nation trickles in. It's Halloween, so happy Halloween. Uh, happy trick or treating. If you are trick or treating or taking your kids trick or treating. But today we are going to talk about the trickery that is the neoliberal order, the United Corporations of America, and frankly, sadly, progressives that we elected caving to that. In addition to, um, why is Trump in the thumbnail? Just wait. There's a method to all the madness. In addition to all that, we have really, really great stuff to show you from our reporting here in Buffalo that we have not published yet or released. Stuff from our reporting in Iowa and Illinois from the John Deere strikes. If you haven't been following, this is day 12 of our reporting trip. We started out in Iowa, covering the John Deere strikes, kind of zigzagged around Iowa and Illinois, covering a variety of different picket lines with the John Deere strikes. And there is an update on the John Deere strike. There seems to be a tentative agreement, which we'll get into a little bit later, between John Deere and the United Auto Workers and John Deere workers striking. The workers have to vote on the agreement, obviously, but there's a tentative agreement. We won't take credit for it, obviously. It had nothing to do with us. But still important that we were on the ground there. And we are now 2 days away from the important election here in Buffalo, where India Walton, the Democratic nominee for mayor, a proud Democratic socialist, will be challenging the corrupt corporate Democrat, Byron Brown. Your dime a dozen corporate Democrat has sold his city, Buffalo, to the real estate developers, the political donors, Republican donors, just like most of the politicians around the country have sold cities to developers, political donors, to usher in that beautiful thing called gentrification, i.e., economic terrorism. And by the way, we are coming live from the hotel today because got an email from the campaign, India Walton, that there were no events today open to the press, which was interesting. 2 days away. However, yesterday we covered an India Walton event. We also went to Mercy Hospital, where 2,000 hospital workers are on strike for a month now in Buffalo. So we interviewed some nurses there. If you missed it, we're going to show some of that today. We also have reporting and interviews we've done here from India Walton's campaign that we're going to air if you've missed it. So we have a lot of stuff to show you today, and talking about obviously the top line issue, which is what do they say? You know, it's that same old record spinning, the same old record spinning, which is the Democratic Party in complete control in Congress, the White House, House, Senate, essentially selling you out. And then after they sell you out, demanding and begging you to vote to save the democracy from Republicans. Well, clearly what they're doing and not doing is showing we don't have a democracy, period. And yeah, you know, Trump, Republicans, clearly a threat, but you can't keep expecting people to buy this line. It's the most important election of our lifetime. We've been hearing this every election, presidential elections, midterm elections. It's the most important election of our lifetime. Then when they come out, even against their own will in a lot of cases, a lot of people held their nose, in my case drank whiskey, to vote for this schmuck, Biden, this corrupt warmonger Biden. And what do you end up getting? Democrats selling you out, Democrats basically watering down legislation for big pharma, for their political donors, for Wall Street, blaming it just on Manchin and Sinema. But obviously we have had zero fight from President Biden to get what he actually promised. And frankly, unfortunately, what I'm about to show you is progressives seem to be falling in line also. So smash that like button. thumbs up button right under the live stream. Share this live stream, super important. Like I said, we're going to be weaving in a whole lot of different things. The top line issue, which is this $1.75 trillion pathetic disaster, which you should be scared of, because honestly, you want to talk about how somebody like Donald Trump won in 2016. Well, what the Democrats are currently doing is going to usher in on either Trump again or a mini Trump in Ron DeSantis. Because when Democrats or just political parties in general end up basically negotiating against themselves, selling out legislation, selling you out for big pharma, for the fossil fuckers, for the political donors, completely watering down legislation unnecessarily because we have the money for all of this, well, you tend to deflate the voting base. You tend to lose people that might have came out for you in 2020. They're not going to come out for you in the midterms. They're not going to be so eager to come out for you in 2024 because they say, oh, well, yeah, Republicans bad, Trump bad, Ron DeSantis bad, but you had power. And what did you do? Nothing. So we are going to sprinkle in all of this. Also, we're gonna be pushing this throughout. So for the people who get triggered when we ask for support, sorry. This is day 12 of our reporting trip. As we're going to show you throughout this live stream, we've been doing a lot of great stuff here in Buffalo, interviewing India Walton, campaign supporters, Starbucks workers we've interviewed who are trying to form a union here, hospital workers who are on strike at Mercy Hospital, and of course the John Deere reporting we did last week. So all of this is very expensive. When it's all said and done, we're going to be on the road for 2 weeks. It's going to cost us between $6 and $7 grand between multiple flights, hotels, rent a cars, food. We've had to go to Best Buy 3 times for equipment. So if you have any means, statuscoup.com/donate. Also, we got 23 new Status Coup members yesterday. Count them, 23 new Status Coup members yesterday, and in large part because I was on Crystal Kyle and Friends, Kyle Kalinske and Crystal Ball's podcast, and it shows you we are so badly suppressed that whenever we get a little lifeboat getting on bigger shows with bigger audiences, and those audience who might not know Status Coup or might not have heard of it or seen it, when they hear about what we're doing and they hear about our reporting, they sign up. So I hope you might be one of those new people that signed up as a member or a subscriber. If you're not, I hope you'll consider signing up as a Status Coup member, statuscoup.com/fall. All the way through Thanksgiving, we have our fall promo going. So if you sign up as a member before Thanksgiving, you will get a free piece of Status Coup swag, either a shirt, a poster, something like that. Go to statuscoup.com/fall, and the instructions for how to sign up and get a free piece of Status Coup merchandise are there. So let's get to Bernie. Now, I have not, and keep sharing this live stream, keep pressing the like button. And super chats are welcome. I'm going to read super chats at the end. So I have not been quite on board with, Bernie's a sellout, a coward, a fraud. I don't. Just me personally, I'm not somebody who just like throws the baby out with the bathwater. I think you could be really, really disappointed and critical with politicians or anybody for that matter, while not forgetting everything they have done. So to me, I'm never going to forget Bernie Sanders before 2016. There was no progressive movement. It was a very dark period between Occupy Wall Street and Bernie's first campaign. There was no organized progressive movement. There was no progressive groups. There was no organization. Labor unions were fucking asleep and hibernating. And Bernie Sanders, stood up to the plate, and he ushered in millions of people who were not political, who maybe believed what Bernie believed, but never got involved. So I'm not going to just discount that this man has done a whole lot for the progressive movement. With that said, he's showing his weakness as a politician. And frankly, for a man that in 2016 and 2020, look at 2020, was just pleading with his supporters to vote for Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump because of the threat to democracy. He might not realize that the decisions he's making right now to surrender, because it looks like he's about to surrender on this horrendous, pathetic $1.75 trillion deal that does not have lowering the Medicare age, does not have even allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices, the most popular provision in the bill. Allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices is the most popular provision in this proposed bill. Expanding Medicare to include vision, dental, and hearing, out. The only thing in is hearing. So if you're a senior watching, fuck you on your teeth. If you're losing your teeth or they're rotting, good luck to you. We're not giving you any help on that. If you're a senior with glaucoma or vision problems, good luck to you. You know, good luck. Pay for that $5,000 LASIK surgery. We're not helping you. You can't hear. All right, we'll throw you some money for hearing aids. That's basically what's in this bill, right? But what he's not realizing is if he and other progressives surrender on this deal, you are helping to usher in a Republican tidal wave in 2022. Because as it stands now, the Republicans are going to win in a tsunami in the midterms. They're going to take back the Senate. They're going to take back the House. And you are helping to usher in either Trump himself again or whoever, Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Tom Cotton, one of these extremist fascist, people. So, to me, I don't really think that if your goal is to save American democracy, even though we don't have a democracy, even though overwhelming public sentiment where the things that voters want, majority support, they generally don't get. You remember that Princeton study many years ago that said over half the time when donors want something, they get something. They get what they want over half the time, donors. Nearly all the time when donors want to block something, they're successful. So we don't have a democracy. But I want to play this clip because Bernie was on CNN this morning. He was twisting himself into a human pretzel, basically to not answer the question whether he would vote no, whether he would block this monstrosity. And it honestly was sad to see. And I'm not doing this just, for fun to bash Bernie. I'm not doing this for clicks. Frankly, even criticizing Bernie, when I criticize Bernie, it doesn't do me any favors with a large section of the progressive movement that really doesn't like any criticism of Bernie. I'm talking about a lot of these groups, Justice Democrats, Our Revolution, people that are allies, People for Bernie, obviously. When you criticize Bernie, which I think I'm doing constructively, it doesn't do you any favors. But I have to be honest with you. And I have to tell you what's really going on. So we're going to play some of Bernie on CNN this morning. Then we're going to play Ro Khanna, which was a fucking train wreck. And we're going to tell you what's really going on here. So keep smashing that like button, share this live stream. Let's play Bernie Sanders this morning on CNN's State of the Union.
If you don't succeed in that progress, will you support the framework as it currently stands, what the White House released at the end of the week?
Well, all I will tell you is we have a very, very strong bill, and it deals with the fact that we are going to start paying attention to the needs of working parents, continue that $300. We're going to build affordable housing. We're going to make sure that elderly people and people with disabilities can stay at home rather than be forced into a nursing home, et cetera. We're going to demand that the wealthiest people in this country start paying their fair share of taxes.
So sounds like that's a yes. If you're not successful, you will support
it. It's a very good bill. No, but
you
am
pull out for
right?
a second. So let's start from the beginning. So if you don't know what's actually in the bill versus what's out the bill, what's in the bill, and we could say there are some good things. What's in the bill is universal pre-K. It's only for 6 years. Technically speaking, if they get universal pre-K, it's like Social Security, it's like Medicare. It's pretty hard to pull that back after you have a program like that for a long time. So let's just say universal pre-K is kind of the top line figure, which is not a small thing. It's not incremental. That's a major thing. But if that's the only major thing in the legislation, when you have the White House, Senate, and Congress, that's not good enough. Sorry, that's not good enough. Secondly, he mentioned affordable housing. I mean, I talked about this the other day. I've been around the country. We're in Buffalo now. There's $150 billion for affordable housing, with talks of building 1 million units of affordable housing. I mean, that's a Band-Aid to a gaping gentrification gunshot wound. $150 billion for affordable housing barely is going to put a dent. It does not keep up with gentrification, i.e. economic terrorism. That's what gentrification is. It's economic terrorism. It is spreading fear throughout communities that you're going to be forced out, that you're not going to be able to afford where you've been born and raised, where you're not going to be able to afford grocery prices, things you could previously afford. That putting fear in, I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep the roof over my head. That's gentrification. So him saying, affordable housing, it's not enough money for affordable housing. Him saying care for seniors so they don't have to go to nursing homes. Yeah, that's a good thing. But when he says it's a strong bill, I mean, even the climate proposals, I talked about this the other day, $550 billion. Sounds good, right? Well, you have to actually look underneath the hood if it's a car, right? Most of it is neoliberal accounting stuff like tax incentives and subsidies. The main provision that was the strongest, which was directly paying utilities if they could shift to increase to wind and solar. Let me get the exact wording on that. Hold on. So the top thing was a clean electricity performance program contained in the original proposal, which would pay utility companies that increased their renewable energy supplies by 4% per year and fine companies that don't hit the benchmark. So tax incentives and all these things, that's wonderful. That doesn't have teeth. We don't have time. I mean, all of the experts, all of the studies say we need to act yesterday. Some of this climate chaos and the climate inferno is already irreversible. So tax incentives and subsidies if you buy electric vehicles. Colin and I were talking about this the other day. Okay, an electric vehicle, what does that cost you? $40,000, $50,000. So you're going to get a tax incentive of $12,500 to go buy an electric vehicle. Most working class people still can't afford it, even with that subsidy. So you can't just look at a number. You have to look at the details under. It is not, $550 billion. There have been many experts that have said we need upward of $10 trillion to actually effectively reverse some of this climate catastrophe. 550 billion, we're underneath. If you look into it, a lot of it is tax incentives and things like that. We've had tax incentives and neoliberal tax incentives and subsidies for the last 40 years. What has that gotten us? Massive income inequality, i.e. the highway robbery, the bank robbery of your money to Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and all of the usual plutocrats. It is not good enough. So when, I don't know if Bernie believes this or he's just trying to save face, but when he says it's a strong bill, I don't know what he's talking about. The 9 out of 10 things that you, Bernie Sanders, wanted are out of there. And it also gets to another point. Well, let's play more of the clip because I'll get to Bernie being naive and weak in a little bit. Let's play more of the clip.
Now, I can tell you, I worked yesterday, we're working today, we're going to work tomorrow to strengthen that bill. It is outrageous that we continue to pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. I want to ask you about that. And that 1 out of 4 Americans cannot afford the prescriptions that their doctors write. That is not acceptable.
Let's talk about that because that is one of the priorities that right now is on the cutting room floor, allowing the government to negotiate lower drug prices for seniors. I've heard you talk about this hundreds of times, probably. I was told that Senator Kyrsten Sinema says she opposes it because it stifles innovation in the pharmaceutical industry. What do you make of that? And what conversations, you're saying you're working on trying to change this, are you talking to her? Do you think that she is convincible?
Look, this is not about Senator Sinema or Senator Manchin. It's about 50 senators and the outrage.
Yeah, but they make up,
not have one
Matt,
Republican.
they make up the 50 senators.
So do we all. But here is the bottom line.
Right.
Last year.
Cut up. All right. So this part made me fucking want to blow my lid. And it brought me back to feelings I had in 2016 when he would not go for the jugular during debates against Hillary Clinton. And it brought me back to moments in the 2020 primaries when he kept calling Joe Biden my friend and refused to call him what he is, which is corrupt. When you have let Let's talk about India Walton for a second, okay? I'm in Buffalo. And again, we're coming live here. Her campaign events today. It's 2 days from the mayoral election. I'm not out because her campaign, there's no events open to the press today. I don't know why, but they don't have any events that are open to press. So India Walton has been doing something that is wonderful. She is explicitly calling her opponent corrupt. You have to call your opponent what they are by name: corrupt. People need to hear more that Democrats, whether it's the mayor or these senators, are corrupt. They're not moderate. They're not opposing lowering the Medicare age on principle. They're not opposing Medicare being able to negotiate lower drug prices on principle. They're not opposing dental benefits and vision benefits on principle. They're not opposing actual climate proposals with teeth to save our planet on principle because they're moderate or they come from a red state. They're opposing it because they are corrupt. They are opposing it because they're immoral. Let me say that word again: immoral. So I don't understand, and Bernie has done this for 5 years. I don't understand. It doesn't make political sense at all. Why, when you are given layups, and by the way, that's what that CNN anchor is doing, when you're given layups to call out. I mean, Joe Manchin, if Bernie Sanders calls him corrupt, he's going to hear that. It's going to register. Same thing with Kirsten Sinema. When you directly speak the truth, when you call them corrupt by name, you apply pressure. The media cannot ignore that. Sure, they'll say, oh, Bernie Sanders is being divisive, this and that. But then the media has to speak out on Joe Manchin making $4.5 million from his coal company since he's been a senator. This man is the main reason that the climate provisions in this bill have been stripped down to the bone. It's barely mentioned in the media that he has a glaring conflict of interest because he is corrupt and evil and doesn't care if you and your families burn in the climate inferno as long as him and his donors get money. Okay, so it just makes no political sense at all. And this does. I don't hate Bernie. I don't think he's a sellout. I don't think he's a fraud. He's. I don't know. I don't know why he keeps pulling punches and holding back. Because right now you have an opportunity to say Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin are literally, not because they're moderate, not because they're centrist, not because they're principled. They are literally two people on an island opposing the overwhelming majority of the American people because they are corrupt, because they are bought off, because they have vested economic interests that oppose the overwhelmingly popular legislation. Call them what they are. Secondly, I think a lot of progressives, and I've seen this from Our Revolution, which is obviously named after Bernie. I've seen this from Justice Democrats. We've obviously seen this from Bernie. I think that they have been fooled and hoodwinked into thinking, oh, for the first time in a long time, we actually have a seat at the table. President Biden, I'm speaking as Bernie, I'm routinely at the White House in meetings with him going over these negotiations. President Biden has had progressives at the table in terms of AOC and the squad, them, Pramila Jayapal, Ro Khanna, AOC, routinely talking to President Biden and his chief of staff. What does it matter if you have a seat at the table if ultimately they're going to eat you for fucking lunch and dinner at the end? It doesn't matter if they placate you. It doesn't matter if they are nicer to you than the Hillary Clinton or Obama people were. It doesn't matter if you're in the room. Ultimately, Biden has been stringing Bernie and progressives along basically since Bernie dropped out, making all these vague promises that they'll have a seat at the table, that we're going to work, to build back better and all this bullshit. Well, how's that working out? How's that working out, Bernie? He moonwalked away from a $15 minimum wage, gone, not even discussed anymore. He moonwalked away from a public option, gone, not even discussed anymore. He moonwalked away from $2,000 checks, which became $1,400 checks, gone, not discussed anymore. Police reform, not gone, not discussed anymore. And this bill was supposed to be closer to $6 trillion. $3.5 trillion is basically a compromise. Even the 3.5 trillion bill didn't go far enough. But now progressives are going to vote for this. And it's from that interview, from what Bernie, the way he's talking, sure sounds to me he's going to vote for it. Ro Khanna was on another show. We're going to show you that next today, directly saying he's a yes. He's going to vote for this. Pramila Jayapal has been trying to sell this as transformative. She's a yes. Ultimately, they're going to vote for this. So what it comes down to is why are you voting for this? Because are we perpetually just going to be conditioned to say, well, it's better than nothing, and we'll take this now and fight for another day, fight the next battle in the future? Well, if you keep operating that way, we, the American people, whether American, undocumented, whatever, we are going to continually be in this situation and cycle in 2 years, in 4 years, in 6 years, when lobbyists, big pharma, the fossil fuckers are literally buying off the Democratic Party, forcing legislation to be stripped down to the bone. And this isn't new, folks. Remember, the stimulus during the Great Recession should have been way beyond. It should have been $1.5 to $2 trillion. 2/3 of it, by the way, ended up being tax cuts. That got stripped down to $750 billion. Obama ran on single payer, ended up doing a conservative, healthcare plan that was a huge plus for insurance companies. And that's when Democrats had super majorities in Congress. Well, what happens when you end up watering down legislation to be lobbyists, to basically placate and benefit lobbyists and big pharma and the fossil fuckers and Wall Street? What happens? Well, you kind of depress your base that keeps coming out for you in elections. You depress the youth turnout, you depress black turnout, which is what happened to Hillary Clinton in 2016, and you end up getting monsters like Trump. And then they turn around after getting monsters like Trump and end up blaming progressives rather than themselves. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And by the way, folks, I'm not paying attention. Chill out in the chat. Like, people are out of their mind. People are out of their mind. Just enjoy the broadcast. Can we be a little civil? Moderators fighting with people and people fighting with moderators, like, relax. We're not 12. Thank you. So I want to get back to this Bernie clip, because I honestly, I don't know what Bernie's thinking. I really don't. Bernie, this is a legacy moment. This is a legacy moment. And Bernie Sanders could say, I can't in good conscience vote for this. It's not transformative. It's not what we ran on, and I can't on good conscience vote for this when seniors are going to be left out, when young people are left out, community college, when our planet, it's just going to accelerate the inferno that is our planet. I can't in good conscience vote for this. And by the way, if I vote for this and if we pass this, it's going to help the Republicans win in 2022 and 2024. It's ridiculous. So let's go back, more of this clip with Bernie.
Pharmaceutical industry made $50 billion in profit. Last year, the top CEOs made hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in outrageous levels of compensation. All right. So the issue is, right now, the pharmaceutical industry is doing everything that it can to make sure that 1 out of 4 Americans is unable to afford the prescriptions that their doctors write. People are dying. The cost of insulin is totally 10 times more in this country.
Will you vote for a bill that doesn't include
that? Anyone
that?
tells me...
You're talking about how important it is. Would you vote for a bill that doesn't include changing what you're describing as a very big problem?
As soon as I leave the studio, I'm going to be going back home to get on the phone to make sure that we have it. The American people, over 80% of the American people, give you an example. Right now, the Veterans Administration is paying half because they negotiate prescription drug prices. They are paying literally 50% of what Medicare is paying. Does that make any sense to anybody? You have one government agency paying half as much as another government agency. That has got to be dealt with. We are working very hard to make that happen.
One of the reasons, and I know you've spoken to him and you've heard him say publicly, Senator Joe Manchin refuses to endorse some of the Medicare expansion in this is because he believes that the inflation crisis in this country is very bad, and that also on Medicare coverage, he believes that expanding Medicare, which is what you're saying should be done, will hurt the actual underlying, will hurt the trust fund and make it hard for people to get basic Medicare. How do you convince him that he's wrong on that?
Well, the way to convince him, and the simple reality is, we are paying for this. Inflation today is a serious issue, no question about it. But what we are doing in this legislation is demanding that the wealthiest people and largest corporations start paying their fair share of taxes. This bill is going to be totally paid for. And in terms of Medicare solvency,
first of all,
I have no objection.
I don't know. I'm not on Wall Street. I don't own a business, but I do know a little something about negotiation. Part of why Joe Manchin, who's corrupt, and Bernie refuses to say it, he's corrupt. Part of why Kirsten Sinema, who's corrupt, Bernie refuses to say it. Part of why they get what they want is they put down red lines. They put down red lines and they say, I will not vote for this. You do not have my vote if X, Y, and Z are in it or not in it. That's why Democrats get their way, corporate Democrats, which are basically Republicans just in the Democratic Party. Why? I mean, this CNN, I can't even criticize CNN, which I love to do because she's giving him the opportunity to say it. Why can't he say, yeah, no, without lowering prescription drugs, lowering prescription drugs, or allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices, or adding vision and dental into this, I'm a no. Even, let's just say for argument's sake, he doesn't mean it. Even if at the end he will fold. Why are you so, and not just him, Ro Khanna, Pramila Jayapal, the entire squad, why are you not willing to put red lines down? Why are you not willing to say, you do not have my vote if these things aren't in it? Because you want to know what that does? If Biden, if Pelosi, if Schumer, if the corporate Democrats know you're serious, or they even think you're serious, then they go back to Manchin and Sinema and say, yeah, you have to cave on this. You're going to have to give on this. Period. We've come down all the way from 3.5 trillion down to an embarrassing, pathetic 1.75 trillion. You're going to have to give, talking to Manchin, dental and vision have to be in this. Period. If you don't, you're going to have a hard time from us. You will be hearing from our Department of Justice, Joe Manchin, about your daughter who increased drug prices, who increased EpiPen prices by like 600%. Remember that? Joe Manchin's daughter in charge of Mylan, jacked up EpiPen prices. Kirsten Sinema, good luck getting reelected. We will go on a holy crusade against you. But if you put down no red lines, if you don't say definitively on national television, I will not vote for this, if at the very least drug pricing provisions aren't in there to allow Medicare to negotiate, you end up getting rump roast. And we have been seeing this over and over and over and over again. And you can, if progressives haven't learned this by now, you cannot just take Biden's word for it or any corporate Democrat's word for it. And Pramila Jayapal, I believe, said this in an interview the other day. Oh, we have gotten assurances from the president that paid family leave, for example, even though it's not going to be in this one, that he'll keep fighting for it. Are you kidding me? If you can't get it in this, he's the president. If you can't get it in this, while Democrats have control of the White House, the Senate, the House, overwhelming majorities want paid family leave. If you can't get it in this, what makes you think you're going to get it another time? More important, Biden's not even fighting for these things. So trust, if you're going to trust this man, Biden, who there's no reason to trust him, he's a Republican. If you're going to trust it, he's going to fight for it. If you don't get it in this, he'll fight for it going forward. Well, he hasn't fought for any of this. He hasn't fought Manchin or Sinema publicly. He hasn't fought for expanding Medicare, paid family leave, free community college. He has continually bowed to Manchin and Sinema. Why? Because he's not really so desperately passionate for any of these things. Biden is a 1980s and 90s Democrat who basically is a country club Republican and just believes in bipartisanship. And to him, even if it is a piece of shit, stripped down, a bare bones steak, as long as it's bipartisan, he'll sell it as transformational. And that's the entire Democratic Party. So not only on negotiation and strategy is Bernie wrong here, but just on you're literally, if you vote for this, and the squad will vote for it if Bernie signals to vote for it, it's not coming later. It's not coming later, not from Biden or the Democrats, because you're not operating with people who believe what you believe. You're not operating with people who are operating in good faith. You are operating with Biden and corporate Democrats who are literally giving you lip service, who are literally placating you, who are tricking you. It's Halloween, trick or treat, they're tricking you. Let's continue.
And I think it's a good idea that we raise additional revenue by lowering the cost of saving taxpayers' money in Medicare and putting that into expanding Medicare solvency. I am supportive of that idea.
So let me just follow up on one part of this, which is people don't understand maybe why there's such a fight here. And it is because there are philosophical differences within the Democratic caucus, big ones. And you say this is going to be paid for. Joe Manchin just doesn't believe it and believes it will add to the debt and the deficit, and it will contribute to big government spending. And he doesn't think that's the way to go. How do you bridge that gap?
Well, 48. Well, let's also back up a little bit. And
so, unbelievable. Again, another great opportunity for Bernie Sanders here. He refuses to say it. First of all, these aren't philosophical differences, because Joe Manchin's only philosophy is the money. It's the money, Lebowski. These are not philosophical differences. And the fact that Bernie Sanders is just swallowing that dishonest framing and lies, frankly, from CNN, there's no philosophical difference here. Joe Manchin in January said, I'm open to $4 trillion in infrastructure. What changed since January? Go look at how much money he's been making from big pharma. Go look at all the money he's been making from the fossil fuel industry and coal. Just this year. Just this year, the money that's been flooding into him. There is no philosophical difference. Dana, if I was Bernie Sanders, I would say, Dana, with all due respect, there's not a philosophical difference here. There's a moral difference. Joe Manchin is literally voting against and blocking wildly popular things because he is at the service of his donors rather than people that he is supposed to represent just in West Virginia. He is literally blocking major climate legislation, paid family leave, Medicare expansion because he's corrupt. I'm sorry. That's the truth. He's corrupt. You want headlines? You want something to go viral? Call him what he is. These are not philosophical differences. And then the CNN anchor, and remember, folks, smash that like button. We got 350 people watching. Smash the like button. Share this live stream. After this segment, we're going to get to a lot of our reporting that we've been doing on the ground here, some of which you have not seen yet because we haven't released it yet. So we're doing some of the top issue stuff nationally, and then we're going to get into our reporting on the ground. Like I said in the beginning, we've been on the road for 12 days. If you can support us, StatusCoup.com/donate makes a huge difference because it's expensive. Hotels, flights, rent-a-cars, food, you know the drill. There's very few outlets on the ground covering these stories, whether it's the India Walton campaign, Starbucks workers union trying to unionize, the 2,000 hospital workers at Mercy Hospital that are on strike. We interviewed some of them yesterday. And of course, the John Deere strike, which we just came from in Iowa. So StatusCoup.com/donate. Any amount matters. Mike, how long do we continue to have patience with Sanders? Seriously, if you're watching, I'm losing my patience. And, I'm a little different. I maybe it's not as clicky or sexy. I'm the kind of person, and this is just the way I think, not just about politics, but in general. I don't like to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, I think Bernie deserves a lot of credit for what he's done for the progressive movement. I'm not going to just call him a fraud and a coward and a sellout because I don't truly believe that. What I think is he's weak. He is weak. He does not understand how to seize power. He does not understand how to utilize power. He does not understand that the very things he and the squad and the progressives are doing right now, which is folding like a cheap tent, is going to threaten democracy, is going to hand the Republicans the House and the Senate, is probably going to hand the Republicans the White House in 2024. So by basically rolling over, by basically going along with the Democrats to moonwalk away from their promises to the voters, to let the voters down like they did after the financial crash, that's how you get Trump. That's how you lose control of the House of the Senate. So by folding like cheap tents, by surrendering, which it sure sounds like Bernie's about to do, you are threatening democracy, which, by the way, secret, we don't have one. We don't have a democracy. We have an oligarchy. But when the CNN anchor also said, but Manchin doesn't believe that this will be paid for. Wait a minute. So first, she gave Bernie the opportunity just to call him corrupt, which Bernie refuses to do. And then she says, Manchin doesn't believe that this will be paid for. It's not that Manchin doesn't believe. It's not that Manchin doesn't believe it will be paid for. Manchin is blocking any ability to pay for it. And by the way, for our friends and Steve Grumbine, this whole pay for thing is bullshit anyway. Okay, we have all the money in the world to pay for this. Modern monetary theory. I wish Bernie and others would start talking this way. I mean, nobody's talking on CNN right now that we're spending $8 trillion on the military over the next 8 years, but we don't have money to pay for this. Plenty of money to pay for that. So this whole pay for it is just a distraction. It's not actual reality. We print money. We have all the money in the world. We could, like that, pay for paid family leave, pay for Medicare for all, pay for universal pre-K, free public college, all of these things. But if you want to even entertain this pay for, it's not that Manchin doesn't believe it could be paid for. He is blocking any way to pay for it. He has blocked a billionaire's tax. He is blocking raising the corporate tax. He is blocking raising the top rate on the wealthiest people. He doesn't want a corporate minimum tax. He's against all of these things. So when the CNN anchor says, well, Bernie, Joe Manchin doesn't believe it will be paid for. No, Dana Bash, he's blocking us from paying for it because he's corrupt. I mean, how many times do you have an opportunity to just call him what he is, corrupt, and you just whiff? Let's finish.
Make sure everybody understands. There are 100 members of the United States Senate. Unfortunately, we do not have one Republican who is prepared to take on the pharmaceutical industry, take on the private health insurance companies. Not one Republican prepared to go forward to deal with the crisis of climate. Not one Republican prepared to say to the richest people and largest corporations, they're going to have to pay their fair share of taxes. So we're down to 50 people. And anytime you get 50 people with different ideologies coming from different parts of the country, there are going to be differences of opinion.
So given that reality,
and that is, believe me, what we are struggling with right now.
Sorry to interrupt you. Given that reality, do you believe that House progressives should insist on a public commitment from Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema before they vote yes on either of these bills?
So the last thing I'll say on this, because there's nothing left to address, I can't. My brain hurts. It's not about 50 people coming from 50 different places. I have been on the ground in West Virginia 3 times, most recently over the summer. We went to West Virginia. We spoke with West Virginians, and not just progressives, by the way. We actually dug in and investigated on Joe Manchin's corruption, which is a lot more than CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, the Washington Post has done. The only other outlet that I could even think of that has reported on Joe Manchin making millions of dollars from coal is The Intercept. But we went there. So when Bernie says, we got 50 people who come from 50 different parts of the country that are all different ideologically, well, West Virginia is not different ideologically. They overwhelmingly support the the paid medical leave, free community college, expanding Medicare, allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices, the climate proposals, the list goes on and on and on, all overwhelmingly popular. And go take a tour of West Virginia, see how many people need that free dental who have rotting teeth or missing teeth. No offense to people watching in West Virginia. I think there's 245,000 people in West Virginia that are live in poverty. I'm sorry. What's the old adage? You could take the baby to the water, but what is it? You could take somebody to the water, but they got to drink it. Bernie Sanders, whatever you think, you could think whatever you want. If you think he's a fraud, a sellout, a coward, whatever, I don't agree with those things. But I will say he is somebody who had a really, really, really special ability to galvanize people, to inspire people that more is possible, to bring people together, to give people license and permission to organize, to to basically connect with people, so that people who never ever heard a politician speak their experience, Bernie Sanders had that special ability, and I don't think we should take that away from him. But as a politician, as a politician, um, as a politician, actually paying power politics, he will forever be known as weak. And I really hope that I really hope that after this live stream over the next few days, I have egg on my face. I really hope that I'm proven wrong. I really hope that Bernie wakes up, has his Wheaties, whatever else, and says, I can't vote for this. Because I will be the first one to come on here and apologize and say I was wrong. But I'm not going to be, I can't hold my breath. I'm not holding my breath. It does not look good right now. Bernie's language that this is a strong bill, and it's not a strong bill. Like I said, we could say there's a few good things in there. Universal pre-K is a good thing. But if you have the White House, if you have the House, if you have the Senate, and the major things you're getting is universal pre-K for 6 years, by the way, is elder care, is $150 billion in affordable housing, which I've already described is totally insufficient for the massive affordable housing crisis in this country, brought on by gentrification, by the way. Climate proposals, it sounds good, $550 billion, but if you actually look line by line at what is part of that $550 billion, it's a whole lot of tax incentives, which is the neoliberal scam that we've been living under for the last 40 years. Tax incentives is not going to save the planet. We need enforceable fines, frankly, criminal penalties at this point. We need massive money going to companies that are going to do the right thing and shift to wind, solar, renewables. Tax incentives are not going to get it done. They're not. We don't have time. We don't have time for like a Band-Aid to a climate inferno. And to me, what you're seeing in this climate proposal is a Band-Aid. So I want to move on and keep smashing that like button. We're going to do Ro Khanna quick, and then we're moving on to our reporting here. And keep smashing that like button. Let me read some comments before I move on. Pathetic is right. Sad to say, but it's true. Jordan, are you paying attention to the Cleveland mayor race? Legendary progressive Dennis Kucinich is running again. I'm expecting rigging. I know of it. It's hard to pay attention because I've been this is day 12 on this reporting trip, and we're running around trying to cover a million different things, but I am paying attention. Would not surprise me if it's rigged against Dennis Kucinich in Cleveland. I hope he wins. He's definitely a strong progressive. 222. You can send a politician to Congress, but you can't make him, her work for you, Marvin. And that's the thing. I think that Bernie, I can't get in his head, but I think Bernie and these progressives think that, well, we can't live with ourselves if we vote against the universal pre-K or the things that are in it. I think what they're not realizing is you are by continually voting for these things. Sure, in the short term, if you vote against it, you might be blocking certain good programs, but overall, you're hurting the working class. You're hurting the people that need large, big, bold change now by continually to being a doormat and folding your tent so easily, because it just kicks the can down the road, kicks the can down the road, kicks the can down the road for 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 10 years, and people aren't going to take it anymore. And by the way, I got to be honest. If you look through history, okay, I'm not trying to scare people, but this is the truth. If you look through history, authoritarian countries, fascism, right? Fascism brews, whether in Germany or other countries over the last century, when the working class is continually left behind, when the working class and the government that's supposed to be serving the working class continues to basically leave them in a puddle of poverty, continues to leave them fighting for their economic survival. that I'm not defending authoritarianism or people that latch onto that, but we have to understand that is a big reason people latch on to authoritarian leaders. That is a big reason that people latch on to fascism, because they are being left behind. They are being screwed. They are basically being run over by the politicians that are supposed to be working for them, lifting their wages, lifting their material conditions. So when people come strolling in with populist tones, with nationalistic tones, with working class tones, they gravitate towards that and maybe don't see as much the authoritarian aspect of it or the genocidal aspect of it. So what the squad is doing, what Bernie is doing right now, is ushering in fascism. And I don't really want to hear from Ro Khanna and these people that it's transformational and it's a great. No, it's not. It's not. And it's not delivering on the promises that Biden made. So if you thought Bernie Sanders was wrong, it's about to get worse, folks. It's about to get worse. Let's play Ro Khanna.
As Secretary Raimondo said that this legislation, the Build Back Better program, is going to pass this week. That's really in the hands of progressives like you. Are you a yes vote on both this and the infrastructure bill?
I am. The president has shown patient and extraordinary leadership. It's time for this party to get together and deliver.
That's it. So, oh God, I just can't. So the president has portrayed patient and extraordinary leadership. And by the way, Ro Khanna, he came on with me. I appreciate it. I'd love to have him on again, but I'm not going to hold back. Do you believe this? If Ro is watching, do you actually believe this? I know it's a lot easier said than done. I'm outside. I don't have the pressures on me that you have. But do you actually believe that Joe Biden has portrayed or exuded patient and extraordinary leadership? The only thing he ran on, the only thing other than restore the soul and all that other bullshit, $15 minimum wage, literally preemptively folded the tent. Didn't even fight for it. Used the parliamentarian as an excuse why we couldn't have a $15 minimum wage in the coronavirus relief bill in January. Only thing you ran on, $15 minimum wage. The only thing you ran on, a public option. You hear of a public option, Ro Khanna? Leadership means you actually fight and have principle. That's leadership. Not holding meetings at the White House and literally surrendering to Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema, when Biden could have been calling them out as corrupt just as easily as you and Bernie could have. The problem is Biden and them share the same donors, and he's never going to do that because Biden's corrupt. But just sounds working class underneath his corruption. Biden has exuded no leadership. He has had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to put Manchin and Sinema on defense. He's held, I think, 2 town halls on CNN where he could have called them out for literally obstructing wildly popular provisions that have overwhelming majority support. How could you say we live in a democracy if policy after policy after provision in these bills have 70, 80, 90% support? Well, why should people keep voting if what they get is literally you, Ro Khanna, Bernie, progressives, Biden, the Democrats, who literally tell them, well, this is the best we could get. It's the best we could get in a 50-50 Senate where you got 2 senators who won't do it. Well, I don't know. Call me naive. Can't you do something more? Can't Biden do something more to fight the 2 senators that are obstructing? You can't just keep saying, well, they're negotiating in good faith when you know they are literally negotiating on behalf of the fossil fuel industry, on behalf of big pharma. That's not operating in good faith. That's being corrupt. And frankly, how could you say that Biden is operating in good faith, that Biden is operating in extraordinary leadership when he literally has been in fetal position this whole time, bending to what Manchin and Sinema want? You know what a good leader would do, folks? A good leader would have pulled Joe Manchin in and said, listen, Joe, you don't want 3.5 trillion? That's fine. But here are my red lines, and I'm the president, so you're going to listen to me. we're going to have vision and dental and hearing as part of Medicare, and we're going to allow Medicare to negotiate lower drug prices, and you're going to have to tell your donors too bad. That's the red line, and I'm the president, and you're going to do what I want because you're not the president. And if you don't do what I want, guess what? You know your daughter? You know how she was the president of Mylan, the pharmaceutical company that jacked up EpiPen prices, I think by 600 or 700%? That's interesting because I know a lot of pharmaceutical executives that they might go to jail if they weren't the daughter of a powerful senator. And geez, the Department of Justice, well, technically, it's independent of me, but I sure could make sure that Merrick Garland knows about that case and knows about your daughter and her role in that. I don't want anything bad to happen to your daughter, but, I can't make any promises. That's power. But Biden's not going to do that because he doesn't care if any of these things get through. It's called power. It's called taking them out by the knees if you have to. If I were the president, I would say to Kirsten Sinema, listen, Miss Sinema, I don't really know what you want. I don't know if you want to stay in Congress. I don't know if you want to run again for Senate. I don't know if you want to go quietly into the night as a lobbyist. I don't know if you want to own your own winery, because apparently she did a paid internship as a senator, by the way, at a winery last summer. But what I do know is you ran your Senate campaign in 2018 on lowering prescription drug prices, and you have now flip-flopped on that. So if you don't go along with lowering prescription drug prices, if you do not go along with expanding Medicare, my White House, myself, my team, our allies in the House and Senate, we will go on an absolute holy political crusade against you. You will not be able to turn on news or click on a website without attacks exposing you flip-flopping and the money that you have taken to flip-flop on lowering prescription drugs. Let's see how fast Kirsten Sinema's blue wig falls off with a little pressure. That is leadership. So I think Ro Khanna, I don't really know what he's thinking, but you're insulting the intelligence of progressives by saying Biden has exuded leadership. He's exuded nothing. My wife might be watching, so I don't want to say this because she gets mad at me. When I hint at running for office, I'm not going to run for office. But let me tell you something. I could do a lot better than these schmucks in office. Because you want to know something? I would have no interest in staying in office. I would have no interest in bending over like a pretzel and twisting it like a pretzel to win re-election. I mean, it's so blinking red lights in your face what needs to be done, and they're doing none of it. So I got news for you folks. Before we move on to the great reporting we've been doing here in Buffalo and what we did in Iowa, and please don't go anywhere. I know a lot of people, it's not as sexy, the on-the-ground reporting. It's important. I need you to watch this stuff. I need you to share it, and I need you to support us, whether it's a donation or becoming a member. It is very, very difficult to afford on-the-ground reporting all over the country. And I know it's not the sexiest headlines. It's not the stuff that's going to go viral. It's not as clicky as, Joe Rogan for CNN or TYT for Jimmy or whatever. I think this is more important. The reporting we're doing on the ground on India Walton's election, on the Starbucks workers trying to form a union. That would be massive for workers and the labor movement and you if Starbucks workers were able to successfully form a union here. The hospital workers that are on strike at Mercy Hospital, I interviewed them yesterday. We're going to show you a lot of that. I also interviewed 2 Starbucks workers that got COVID, likely because Starbucks, in response to workers trying to unionize here, has literally flooded stores with executives from not from Buffalo, and flooded stores with new hires to try and stop the union effort. So there were so many people in these stores that these 2 workers got COVID. Now, can't guarantee that's where they got it, but these 2 workers, according to them, were not doing much outside of work because they were both immunocompromised and did not want to risk getting COVID. So there's a lot of great reporting we're going to show you. Don't go anywhere. But the last thing I'll say is, listen, you could label it whatever you want. Okay. You guys know what I think. I don't think Bernie's a fraud or a sellout or any of these things. If that makes me a sellout, whatever. I'm just going to tell you what I believe, not what is going to get me clicks. But I think he's weak, and I think Ro Khanna is weak. And it brings me no pleasure to say this, but I think they are weak. And it's not enough. It's not enough to be with us on the policy. We don't have to agree on all things. I do understand even progressives need to compromise from time to time. But it's not enough to be for Medicare for all. It's not enough to be for paid leave. It's not enough to be for free public college. It's not enough to be for all the things we're for. You have to actually be able to move the ball. You actually have to be able to successfully fight. You have to actually be able to show the corporate corrupt Democratic establishment that no, we're not going to fold every time. So if you don't come closer to us, the progressives, you're not going to get your legislation passed. You're not going to be able to satisfy your donors, and you're not going to be able to maintain power. So I understand. I got to tell you, I understand progressives that feel deflated. I understand the progressives that are saying, I'm done. I can't support these people anymore. I understand it. I mean, I'm not encouraging you to do that. I don't think the answer is to just give up. That's exactly where the capitalist class wants you mentally, is to just give up, to say to hell with it. It's all for naught. It's never going to change. The electoral system, it's never going to change. But I will say, I understand if you are frustrated and angry and depressed. There is no reason the progressives should be voting for this. There is no reason that they shouldn't be calling them corrupt. There is no reason that they shouldn't be rallying their base. I've been saying for months, it's on video, why isn't Bernie in West Virginia? Why isn't Ro Khanna in West Virginia? Pramila Jayapal, the squad. Why aren't you holding massive rallies shaming Joe Manchin? Same thing in Arizona. I haven't gotten a good answer. Ro Khanna in an interview told me, I don't think would make much of a difference. Well, good. You didn't do it. And now we're getting rump roast, which you're going to try to sell as transformative change. Well, I got news for you. When the Republicans in a tsunami retake the House and the Senate in 2022, when they completely retake the House and the Senate, and then when they retake the White House, don't come blaming us. Don't come blaming me. It's not on the voters to continually keep showing up to vote for rump roast and to vote for people who virtue signal about big, bold change and build back better and, the working class and, the restoring the soul of America. It's not for us to keep coming to pull the lever for those people who time after time after time are literally selling you out for their donors. No. So, moving on, and keep smashing that like button. Do not go anywhere, and keep those super chats coming. We're going to read them at the end. I will read some now. Macharius 39, $5. It's a very good bill. Are you kidding me? Bernie is a sellout, just like the squad. I get it. It's not a good bill. It's a terrible bill. I don't agree on the sellout. I've already explained, my views on sellout versus weak or whatever, but he's weak. That we could agree on. Brandon, $50. Thank you so much, Brandon. Osmond, Ozzy, $1.99. Steve, Wolfbrand, $4.99. Instead of a new pool, we are getting jelly of the month. Oh my God. Colin, Kyle, Bernie never had a liberal voting record. Bernie never had a liberal voting record. His voting record's pretty good, if you ask me. Das Bosch Fleiss, $4.99. The corporate goons are turning the bill into the Treaty of Versailles for the American people. Very, very good. Sable, $20. Appreciate it. The Debate Me channel, $20. Why people keep talking about progressives voting no? Why would they? They gutted the bill. They surrendered weeks ago. Why propose a bill, then tank it? Manchin has not made any counteroffers. Hashtag build back the bill to $6 trillion. Yes and no. They didn't surrender weeks ago. I credited them when they refused to vote for the terrible bipartisan infrastructure deal, which, by the way, is just the bipartisan infrastructure bill is literally just privatization on steroids. So I gave them credit when they refused to vote for that without the 3.5 trillion reconciliation deal. And at the time, go back and look, I said I wouldn't take anything less than 3 trillion. And they folded. And David Sirota has made a good point. They have refused to demand what their red lines are. They have refused to say, you will not get our votes unless X, Y, and Z is in there. Period. We are walking away if those things aren't in there. They refuse to do that. You know who does do that? Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. You know why? Because they're corrupt. And they don't care if this passes or not, because they're working for coal miners and big pharmaceutical lobbyists. That's it. All right. We're going to shift over and keep those super chats coming. I'll read more as we go. We're going to shift over to reporting that we have done on the ground here. Super, super important. So before we shift to Buffalo, for those of you who missed some of our reporting from Iowa, I want to show you a mishmash of our reporting in Iowa. Colin worked really hard on this. This is the road trip we just took in Iowa and Illinois, where we were covering the John Deere strikes. And then I'm going to have an update for you after we show our reporting from Iowa on where things stand, because there is a tentative agreement between John Deere and the United Auto Workers striking.
Just talking about it. We are getting on planes and we are going. I will be going to Iowa this week to cover the John Deere strikes.
Right now, we're seeing a resurgence in the labor movement, and United Auto Workers, John Deere workers are ready to spearhead that movement.
But in a lot of ways, corporate media had us believing that we're just lucky to have a job. We're lucky. If you're still at a place that still offers insurance and you're not paying, you're lucky.
Problem is, and Jim Morrison touched on it over 50 years ago, whoever controls the media controls the mind. And depending on what flavor of corporate media you're drinking, they develop this narrative, and that we're a system of entitlement.
We're the richest country in the world, right? We brag about that, yet we've got the majority of our people, which are the working class, that are going out every day and being forced for both spouses to have a job in order to get ahead in this life.
But if you don't take care of your workers who created that wealth, then you're going to have some issues. And, with the proposals they've came back with, it's really a testament to their arrogance, their audacity, and, how classist they are.
I ask everybody that lives in Davenport to call your city alderman and to call your mayor and to tell them to not back John Deere, to back the workers who are their constituents who sit there and pay the taxes. We need this city to back the workers. I go and I trade my labor for a wage. You're not giving me nothing. I'm making that wage. I'm out there working for you, performing a service, and I need to be able to participate in that.
Fundamentally, this is union busting, this is strike busting, this is using the state and the law to try to make it as difficult and uncomfortable and unpleasant as possible for those workers to engage in their lawful right to go on strike.
They organized, they pulled together, and they stood together, and they did that not just for themselves, but because they knew that the community was behind them. So that's why I'm here, to let those John Deere workers know that I, as a community member, am standing behind them.
You got pizzas, a lot of cranberry juice, wood, obviously. You got the barrels there with the heat. We're actually going across a train track right now.
There's departments in there that work 10, 11-hour days, 5 days a week, and then do it at least 6 or 8 on a Saturday. And only because they have to make money somehow. They're not making money off their KIP plan, so they got to make it off overtime.
And honestly, since we've been here, all you hear is cars honking. It's really, really. I mean, I don't think I've seen any cars that pass by without honking. So obviously, the community is in on this.
We're just a number to them. We're as replaceable as a light bulb. So We all feel it over here. Everybody on the wage side feels the theft. They feel our money going away. I mean, what we made 5 years ago, even 10 years ago, is more than we're making in 2021, 2022.
Look, you all are at the tip of the spear. The entire country, the entire world is watching you.
This idea that they're making all kinds of crazy high wages just isn't true. And all they're trying to do is just get a sniff of the American dream.
The gap between the top percent and the bottom 90% of us is getting wider and wider and wider each year.
You're really seeing something special, like an energy that I haven't seen in a while, and I've been around the country.
And we've seen movements across the country for the past couple of years. And we're also seeing people are sick and tired of being sick and tired, as Fannie Lou Hamer said.
Now, corporations invest in things that change your rights. They take away work comp. They take away unemployment benefits. These men and women who are standing in line today are really fighting for the new hires and the people of the future, because it's our communities at stake. It's our families that are at stake.
There is a movement happening out here, and an opportunity right now to really move things significant for the next generation and beyond.
So, as you can see, they're still out here, even in the rain. It's windy, it's cold. I mean, the American dream was supposed to have like a vacation from time to time,
Sure.
be able to buy a car, you know.
Go to work 40 hours a week, and at some point in time in the summer, you get to enjoy some time with your family, the people that you're working for, right? And you know, that's pretty much a gone deal, because it's the vacation time's dictated by companies.
You know, I expected support from the community, but what we've received has been absolutely overwhelming. We've literally had so many donations pouring in. We've had money donations. We've set up an account at Fairway to supply our strike kitchen, so we make sure we have hot meals and hot food for our picketers. But really, it's been a community event.
That's why I say what John Deere has done by giving us a contract that was easily and overwhelmingly rejected. What they've done by forcing us to hit the strike lines is they've forced us to get together and discuss, right? And what we're finding out is we have a lot more similarities than we have differences. And one of the things I'm most proud of that I've seen in the little over a week that we've been on strike is the solidarity and the coming together and the putting aside our personal differences for the sake of solidarity and for fighting for what we want. That's what I've seen that I'm most proud of with this. And I believe it's going to branch out. Hopefully that solidarity spreads to union and non-union.
1, 2, 1, 2. Gotta love it. Gotta love it when the hotel internet goes out. I think we're back now. Could you put up statuscoup.com/fall? So that done all over the place. It was exhausting, but also I'd say invigorating, because honestly, with all the doom and gloom we're talking about right now, with progressives folding, the watering down of this legislation into a pathetic piece of rump roast, it's good to see workers fighting back. It's good to see workers actually taking things into their own hands, not waiting for electoral politics or politicians to save them from the greedy companies that are destroying this country and the greedy corporations that have bought our politicians. So right now, just as an update, yesterday it came out that there is a tentative agreement between John Deere and the United Auto Workers that are striking. It's not official, the terms, but Jonah Furman, who is with Labor Notes, has reported that it's an immediate 10% wage increase. The original contract that they rejected was a 5% wage increase, so an immediate 10% wage increase, plus a 5% increase in 2023 and another 5% into 2025. So ultimately, 20% increase over 6 years. There were new hires because one of the main sticking points was John Deere wanted to propose X benefits and wages for current hires and much, much less for new hires. So new hires would have the option of a pension or 401k. So that means, basically John Deere was trying to get rid of pensions for new hires. So pensions would be available for new hires. So better wages and not this tale of two workers where current workers would get X and new workers would get nothing. So it remains to be seen if UAW workers will approve this, because the workers that are on strike need to approve it. But at least the fact that they have been striking, the fact that they have been on picket lines, 10,000 John Deere workers in different locations in Iowa, Illinois, Georgia, Kansas. We went to 4 different locations in Iowa and Illinois. That's why they're getting more. You see what happens when you hold out, talking to the progressives. You see what happens when you strike. So we will keep you updated on when that deal ultimately comes through. But please, yesterday we got 23 new Status Coup members, in large part because Kyle and Crystal were nice enough to have me on their podcast. So a lot of people listening to their podcasts have probably never heard of Status Coup, have probably never seen our on-the-ground reporting in Iowa and now in Buffalo, because YouTube hides us. That's the truth. YouTube hides us. So please support this important reporting. StatusCoup.com/fall. I don't mean this arrogantly, but do you see any other outlets actually on the ground speaking with workers? You see other outlets going to different locations in Iowa, then coming to Buffalo to cover the mayor's election between India Walton and the corrupt current mayor, and interviewing Starbucks workers who are trying to form a union, and interviewing nurses who are on strike. We're doing it all without taking corporate money. We're not getting money from Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema's donors. We don't want their money. We're doing this from the ground up with you. So please, if you can, StatusCoup.com/fall. We have a promo going through Thanksgiving. So if you sign up as a member at StatusCoup.com/fall, you will get a free Status Coup shirt or other piece of merchandise. So go to StatusCoup.com/fall, and it'll give you the directions how to sign up. I am putting it in the super chat. So go to StatusCoup.com/fall and sign up, and it'll give you the directions how to sign up. Also, if you're already a member, this reporting isn't cheap. So please, if you're already a member, StatusCoup.com/donate, donate any amount to help fund this trip. And those super chats are awesome too, but you could also go to StatusCoup.com/donate and donate and they won't take 30% of your donation. YouTube takes 30% of your super chats, if you don't know. So I want to move on now. I want to show some of our India Walton reporting and respond to it because it's important and it's about gentrification. So Colin, if you have the clip from the, well, whatever mashup you said you came up with, I want to show some of our India Walton reporting and then react to it. It's 2 days today, 2 days from Election Day here in Buffalo.
Second time that we're going to take somebody out who is in power, who got knocked off the ballot by Sean Cooney, not once but twice. Hey. During my campaign, he did the same thing. He went around, he had 4 people signing the same damn petition. He had gone to districts that weren't even his because he didn't take me serious. And people stood up. People like you, people I did not know. Over 50% of the people who walked, I had no idea who they were, but they walked not for Jen. They didn't have to know me. They walked for the kids in the city of Buffalo. They walked for the city of Buffalo. Right. We are walking for the city of Buffalo, and India Walton is going to lead us in the right direction with the right people. That's the motivation, right? When $50,000 came from the Buffalo-Niagara Partnership to help him in that last weekend because they got desperate, he made the wrong move. Pay attention. He paid all his people to do his write-in before they went to the polls. So pay attention to the fact that you can go out there like my team did, and I didn't even know, and talk to them about how crazy this is, how this guy didn't even take you serious, how he didn't even think about you when he decided to not even give a damn. And what happened? 70-30 victory. I beat the incumbent on the school board as a community representative, as someone without a secondary education, but damn that, I got the votes, and why? It's because of people like you. Hit these streets with all of the determination to make sure that every single man, woman, child, whoever, whatever, you represent every culture is going to have a chance in Buffalo, New York. 16 years. 16 years, for Christ's sake, and there is nothing that's changed. If anything, we become more upset. We become poorer.
So I know it's been a rough road, but we got to push just a couple more days to get our next mayor, India Walton, in office, and I know we're going to do it. I got to say it's been a little frustrating to watch, and I'm thankful for our local Democrats who've endorsed. I'm going to give them a hand clap. I'm thankful, shout out Chuck Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand who came out and endorsed. But there are a lot of statewide Democratic leaders and leaders in the party statewide who haven't endorsed. And that's been frustrating to watch because for a very long time, they talk about party unity. And now we have one Democratic nominee, right. Just one. And we have another person who's running who, in fact, is the Republican candidate because the Republicans have endorsed him. Carl Palladino, that's right, who was just a few years early trying to be Donald Trump, has endorsed the opponent. And we have India Walton, who's the Democratic nominee, who followed the rules, who got it done. And these statewide electeds and leaders should be pouring in all the resources to make sure that their Democrat wins. That's right. They're not doing that. But you know what that means? It makes the victory that much more sweeter. It makes the victory say that people power means something. And when you're going out speaking to Buffalonians and get them to come out, you have to remind them, what I've been telling folks, is we lost a lot of people during this pandemic. I'm sure everybody here knows somebody or knows someone who knows someone we've lost. The one thing that we can do in their memory, the one thing we can do in their honor is not go back to normal. Right. So I don't want to hear people saying we're going back to normal, because normal didn't work for Buffalonians. Right. Normal didn't work for the majority of people who lived here in this state. And the people who got us to where we are the people who have always been there. And we have been saying for a very long time there is a better way that is not based on incumbency protection. There is a better way that is not based on politics as usual. There's a better way that, believe it or not, is based on what's best for the people. That's right. And had we elected those people to office, we wouldn't have gotten as bad as we did. And so when we see violence going up, when we see homelessness going up, when we see all the things that we know shouldn't be going up, we have to remind people it was under the watch of the people who are already there.
But I just want to start by thanking all of you. You are the gasoline for the fire. In this David and Goliath, I say often I keep a smooth round stone in my pocket, and when I have pockets, I actually do. But you are that slingshot. I would not be here without all of you, without your hard work and dedication. Rain, snow, 12-degree weather, knocking doors, making phone calls, and we are almost here. We're almost at the end of the campaign, but we are almost at the beginning of creating the change that we want to see in our community. We are almost at the point of giving everyone in the city of Buffalo access to our beloved community. Outside of the campaign, you've done amazing things like show up for the folks in the Perry Projects.
That's right.
When they didn't have food and electricity, came and brought water. You've done amazing things like take food to people in the fruit belt during the pandemic. You all are amazing. You are the front line of the change that we want to see, that many of us have been working on for decades. And finally, what's today? Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We're 3 days away from being able to be a light that shines so bright over the city of Buffalo that we are going to be giving hope to the hopeless, a voice to the voiceless, and visibility to those who've been pushed to the margins and living in the shadows. And that, to me, means more than anything. We're going to win, but it's not about winning. It's about proving that we are prepared to govern. We are prepared to win. We can win based on our values, and we can win with care and love for all of us. So thank you again. Knock those doors. You already know what to say. You already know what to say. If we are beyond the point of convincing, right? We just need people to go out and vote, right? We're not convincing anymore. All of the convincing has been done. He's had 16 years, and we see neighborhoods, we see people who are desperate and destitute and sad and depressed because no one's cared for them. We see that the Walton campaign, the Walton administration has a solid plan for the future.
Obviously, the progressive movement has been, a lot of ups, a lot of downs over the last few years. Why do you think this candidate, this election, is different?
Obviously, I think they're all really important. And I always it's just weird, the word progressive, because I think people are using it. People are saying progressive who probably wouldn't put in that category, but I think the dividing line is really people who are willing to push for what they believe in, push past political risk, push past leaders saying they can't, and folks who will acquiesce when it gets hard. And this campaign represents those who are going to push past and not lose their ideals. They're going to do it in a way that's not politics as normal, and that's not supposed to succeed. So India wasn't supposed to succeed during the Democratic primary, even though the Democrats claim that those ideas are what they believe in. But when it gets hard, they often just fold. And instead of electing people who will help them push and get more courage, they usually dismiss them. And so part of unity usually means fall in line, as we see here. But you have India who followed what they set forth, who actually won, and people are still, unfortunately, some folks are not doing what they're supposed to do. So the general election win, it will just be huge across the state and across this country.
I've been going around Buffalo, like New York City. I mean, it's a tale of two cities, right? You got gentrification, redevelopment and revival, as they call it, in certain areas, and then just complete emptiness in others. If she wins here, do you think that could have a domino effect in other deindustrialized communities like this in terms of whatever you want to call it, progressive, socialist, doesn't really matter, winning, or activists and grassroots rising up?
All these the titles around that seem to scare people, but I do know what we need is a transformative economy, an economy that works for everyone. That's not what we have right now. And as you mentioned, you see whenever there's a revival, it just means one part of the city usually, from New York City to Buffalo, and the upstate downstate divide isn't real. The way they try to divide us up, and having traveled the state, it's just super clear that the same people are benefiting and the same people are not. And so winning Buffalo, the second most populous city in the state, is just tremendous to show that it can happen here. I'm not even most excited about the win. I'm most excited about the governing to show that these policies, these beliefs of a transformative economy can work if you have someone who has the courage to actually get it done, and I know that India does. Plus, she has my wife's name.
Lastly, speaking of governing, you filed paperwork. Are you going to be running for governor here?
I did. We filed the paperwork a few weeks back. We opened an exploratory committee, and you have to be able to raise money by filing it. But I got to say, I'm running for public advocate in the city. The election's on Tuesday. Very excited about it. Very excited about all the responses we've got in that exploratory committee. I see no reason that we wouldn't move forward, but we're going to make some announcements in the coming days.
Thanks. Appreciate it. So, a lot of takeaways from that. And by the way, Colin, I'm having a real hard time. Watching me. God, my hair. My hair is just thinning and thinning and thinning, and this bald spot in the back, it's just getting bolder and bolder and bolder, and my tummy, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger on camera. Just sucks to watch yourself age over the years on camera. But anyway, enough about me. By the way, Jumaane Williams, that's who I was speaking with. He is going to run for governor. He was kind of playing coy about it, but he's going to run for governor in New York. He's been New York City public advocate. And you know what, Colin, I should say, before I do that, before I get into this, I want to give shout outs because boy, are you guys responding. A bunch of new members signing up. Welcome new Status Coup member Mike. Welcome new Status Coup member Hollis. Welcome new Status Coup member Margit. Hope I'm pronouncing that right, Margit. Welcome new Status Coup member Aaron. Welcome new Status Coup member Donovan. Welcome new Status Coup member Nicholas. Welcome new Status Coup member Marshall. Welcome new Status Coup member Steven. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 new members just today on Halloween. Thank you. We need to grow our membership to be able to grow, to be able to survive, and most importantly, to be able to afford this on the ground reporting. I mean, I know I'm like a broken record, but I hope you guys know it's extremely expensive to do anything more than come to you from a studio. That's why most people just do commentary from a studio, and they don't want to drag themselves around the country because it's exhausting. It's really expensive. Just so you know, I mean, this is day 12 of this reporting trip. By the end of it, we'll be on the road for 2 weeks. It's going to involve 6 flights between Colin and I. Colin flying to Iowa, me flying to Iowa, then both of us flying from Iowa to Buffalo, then both of us flying home to our respective homes. That's 6 flights. Then you have hotels for 2 weeks. Then you have a rent-a-car in 2 different states for 2 weeks. Rent-a-cars are expensive, plus getting insurance on the car. Then you have gas for the car, which I just filled up, and gas prices are expensive. Then you have food every day. I mean, actual reporting on the ground, it's exhausting, but it's also expensive. And Status Coup is really built to be an on-the-ground reporting unit, and we do it with basically no resources. It's just myself, Jen, and Colin. I wish we had a bigger staff, but we just haven't grown enough to afford more people. So your membership, not only do you get stuff as a member, we do a monthly call with our members through Zoom. We do behind the scenes videos. While we've been on the road, we've been posting new behind the scenes videos just for our members. So that's up on StatusCoup.com. If you're a member, you go to right on StatusCoup.com, you'll see become a member. And if you hover over become a member, you'll see member content. So if you're already a member, you just click on member content and you'll be able to see our behind the scenes videos. We've been posting photos from this road trip. We kind of try to show you the behind the scenes of these road trips. But it's expensive. So your membership helps us not only cover these trips, but do future trips. And hopefully we can grow more members to, be able to expand our staff, because I'm burnt out, Jen's burnt out, and we need more hands on deck. And I know Colin is tired too. Jack, hey, I just recently joined and didn't know this. Yes, as a member, sorry if I should be more explicit, we do a monthly members call through Zoom. So that should be coming up next week when I'm home and off the road. We have behind the scenes content. So go to statuscoup.com and click over become a member and member content, and you'll be able to see our behind the scenes videos, behind the scenes photos. And for the monthly call, if you're a member, you'll get the link through Zoom because we have your email. So you'll get the link through Zoom for our member call. It's usually on a weeknight at 7:30 Eastern time, 4:30 Pacific. So at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. Most times we do once a month. Sometimes we do twice a month, depending on the month. And also this applies for patrons too. So if you're a patron and not a member, you get the same stuff. For YouTube members, because I've seen some people signing up via YouTube, unfortunately, we can't get your email as a YouTube member. So we can't invite you to our monthly members call because we don't have access to your email as a YouTube member. But as a YouTube member, you get, what do you get as a YouTube member? You get to use emojis and stickers and stuff like that. Priority chat, get to put in emojis, stuff like that. So thank you. I'll keep shouting out new members. But really, really important, if you've been watching this whole live stream, and sorry we went down because the hotel internet went down for a couple minutes, so we lost audience. But really, really important, I'm beginning to see from reporting, it's not as sexy. Like local elections are not as sexy. You won't get huge audiences when covering local elections compared to the presidential election or Congress or Senate. They're actually more important. I'm starting to see and feel more as I cover local elections, because local elections, they're usually low turnout. So you have more of an ability to win if you could just turn out more voters. The mayor's election here in Buffalo, where we're reporting from the elections on Tuesday, but the election in 2017, it was only 16% turnout. Buffalo has, I think, 230,000 people live here, a pretty big city. It was only 16% turnout. So if you out-organize your opponent, if you have a message, if you can organize and have a grassroots campaign, you have a chance of winning, even against a ton of money on the opposite end and Republicans right now. The Democratic mayor, Byron Brown, who, by the way, lost in the primary, he lost to India Walton. Instead of going gracefully into the night and becoming a lobbyist or something, else, which is what he should do, he could not take the loss and is now writing a write-in campaign. And he is encouraging Republicans to vote for him. And the polls show a lot of Republicans are supporting the current mayor. Why? Because as Jumaane Williams said, essentially what economic renewal means, it's called a different thing in different places. Economic revitalization, urban renewal, economic renaissance. Really what that means is one part of the city. That's what gentrification is. It is dressing up and beautifying and pouring in millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars into certain parts of a city and leaving the rest of the city to rot in rampant poverty and corruption and crime. That's what gentrification is. I've seen it here in Buffalo. I've seen it here. I've seen it in Buffalo, Detroit, Flint, Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Portland, San Francisco, Seattle. Speaking of, Colin, what better opportunity, speaking of gentrification, to show reporting that we have not released yet. So we took a drive through Buffalo the other day in the rain to show you the difference between the nice gentrified portions of Buffalo and the parts that have been left behind, which just so happened to be the east side of Buffalo, where India Walton was born and raised. And she is trying to get turnout in a really, really impoverished, poor part of town. Now, if you live in a gentrified city, which increasingly is more and more American cities, this will look familiar to you. Colin was shooting through the window, so it's not perfect because I was driving and he was trying to shoot. But look at the difference of Buffalo. And again, this is on the ground reporting that you Status Coup members are paying for. You Status Coup members and you viewers who have donated, if you're already a member, you could donate to this reporting and this trip, statuscoup.com/donate. But take a look at A Tale of Two Buffaloes. Here is our drive through Buffalo.
It's a cloudy, drizzly Friday here in beautiful Buffalo. And as in most cities that we go, we find the nice, wealthy neighborhoods that tend to be for the wealthy, corporate, corrupt Democrats. So there you see the first of many signs in this North Buffalo neighborhood. That one's a little crinkled. That say, "Write down Byron Brown." And as we drive slowly through this block, the houses will get nicer, and you'll start seeing more "Write down Byron Brown" signs. Write down Byron Brown. And as we drive down a little further, you're going to start seeing the houses get nicer and nicer. Here in North Buffalo, there's a big "Write down Byron Brown" sign. A nice house across the street there. But another "Write down Byron Brown" sign. Here, "Elect Mayor Byron Brown, elect Mayor Byron Brown." And the houses are pretty nice, pretty big over here, as opposed to the east side, which is fairly poor, majority black. There's another one. It's behind this tiny little planted tree. "Write down Byron Brown." And this is very, 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 it's very similar in other major cities where we go that are highly gentrified. Another "Write down Byron Brown" lawn sign.
Not a single India Walton sign.
Not
either.
a single India Walton sign. And why do you think that is? This is North Buffalo, this suburban neighborhood. Pretty wealthy by the size of the homes. And as you could see, in these wealthier areas that are kind of right off of main strips that have been built up. Here's some more. "Elect Byron Brown, write down Byron Brown." "Write down Byron Brown." Across the street, "Write down Byron Brown." They're right near main roads that have, gentrification. You have brand new restaurants, brand new bars, brand new Whole Foods around this neighborhood. So, I haven't seen one India Walton sign in this whole neighborhood. "Write down Byron Brown." "Write down Byron Brown." On the left, "Write down Byron Brown." "Elect Mayor Brown." "Write down Byron Brown." In so many cities, it is a tale of two cities where you can be in this area in North Buffalo that have nice suburban homes. They obviously seem to be supporting one candidate. And then you go, I don't know, we could probably drive 10 to 15 minutes from here. It is, in some areas, it looks like a war zone or a bomb has been dropped. Empty lots, a sea of empty lots, really, really poor, really, really impoverished, and India Walton signs. So now we're on the east side of Buffalo. Definitely more impoverished, majority black, India Walton sign. Less signs in general, but you can see vacant lots, vacant lots. Vacant lots. Looks pretty similar to parts of Flint, Detroit, Cleveland, Milwaukee. It's definitely not where we just were. 15-minute drive. The streets have, let's just say, a little rougher on the tires. Empty lots. India Walton on this side. With there's a Black Lives Matter sign. Less signs, but when you see signs, it's generally for India Walton. Here's another one. And this part of town, the east side of Buffalo, which is where India Walton is from, more empty. These are the kind of places where voter turnout is typically low, because people who live in parts of cities that have been badly left behind, whether it's, the poor parts of Detroit, Flint, Buffalo, Chicago, DC, LA, Portland, San Francisco, you grow apathetic. You grow, to not believe even voting matters. And that's where the capitalist class wants you. India Walton sign. India Walton signs on both sides of the street. And you could just see, empty lots, empty land, grass that's not kept, homes that are pretty run down. So this is what they call gentrification, folks, where you have parts of town that mayors and politicians like Byron Brown pour millions into. They hand real estate developers contracts and totally ignore and let rot these types of communities. This kind of reminds me of South Bend, Indiana, where, Mayor Pete, they made it seem like he brought back South Bend, revived South Bend. Yeah, he bulldozed 1,000 homes in 1,000 days. There's another empty lot, and, homes used to be here. More empty lots. And, the Byron Brown or defenders of these politicians that bulldoze homes would say, well, they were decrepit, or, oh, they were, abandoned, or, oh, they were a blight, so we had to cut them down. But even if that were the case, they have absolutely no plan for what to put in place. They're just leaving seas of emptiness in whole communities. India Walton. So, on the on the north side of Buffalo where we were, where really nice houses, in some cases like mansions, it was nonstop Byron Brown signs. Here on the east side, here's another India Walton sign. So you could really tell the difference between parts of highly gentrified cities, particularly the wealthy, affluent parts, predominantly white people. Therefore, the establishment, corrupt politician who, sprinkles in all the stuff that resonates with them about, oh, socialism, oh, defund the police, that makes them scared of or negative towards somebody like India Walton. And then you have these parts of towns that are just falling apart, completely ignored by mayors like Byron Brown, who are working class, poor, in most cases majority black, brown. They're supporting a working class candidate, a black woman, India Walton.
So that was just driving around two different parts of Buffalo. And by the way, I was telling Colin, if circumstances were different, if we had the money, if we had the resources, I would love one day to do a documentary just on that, gentrification. Because literally, it probably, I'm not a filmmaker, it would probably be one of the simplest documentaries to ever make, which is literally just going downtown and to wealthy suburban areas and showing that, and then driving 15, 20 minutes down the road and showing the rest of the city, because it's literally the same thing everywhere I go. Everywhere I go, and I've been a lot of places over the last 6 years, it's the same thing. Basically, in some cases, it's 7 to 10 minutes, the difference, and in other cities, it's like 15 minutes, that it's literally like two different cities. And frankly, in some parts of the cities, it is, Flint, honestly, I've never been to Iraq or Afghanistan or whatever, but I speak of residents say there's parts of Iraq, war-torn countries that look better than Flint or Detroit or Gary, Indiana, or Saginaw, or name your deindustrialized city that has basically been bombed by neoliberalism and gentrification. But what you're seeing here in Buffalo, it's the same blueprint. You have Democrats and mayors that push this bullshit that, it's the economic comeback and the urban renewal and Buffalo's renaissance. And what are they basing that on? Because they have gentrified downtown. And over the last 15 years, you see new bars and new restaurants and new commercial properties in downtown areas. And in Buffalo in specific, they've poured in a whole lot of money into the waterfront with bars and distilleries and breweries and restaurants. So, yeah, it's wonderful. And there is a renaissance, like Jumaane Williams said, in certain parts of town. And then for the rest of the city, it's deep poverty. Buffalo is the third poorest city in America of its size. So third poorest city of its size. And you're supposed to reelect that mayor who says, there's an economic revival here. There's an economic renaissance. Oh, yeah? Child poverty is above 40% in Buffalo. Poverty is at 30-something%. The economic revival. Yeah, well, we drove through. It's very nice in downtown Buffalo. It's very nice in the waterfront. The rest of Buffalo, going to hell in a handbasket. But the media is also a major reason that the status quo maintains. I was just driving to get coffee and breakfast. You listen to radio stations and they focus on, so she's a socialist. She wants to defund the police. Things have turned around economically under Byron Brown. Yeah, well, most of the media, whether it's local TV or radio, yeah, maybe because they live in those areas that have turned around. They're not living on the east side of Buffalo, I could promise you that. Most of the local news anchors or reporters, they're not living in the areas of these communities that have been left to rot, and in some cases have been destroyed. Do we have that interview with John, the bigger guy, at that India Walton rally? Because he talks about gentrification too. Yeah, I want to show you this too. And again, this is what we've been doing on the ground here for days. So this is what you're supporting if you sign up as a Status Coup member. This is what you're supporting if you donate. But I want to hear from a community activist. He's a member of the Working Families Party because he talks about this gentrification a lot better than I actually can. Go ahead. Both.
India Walton has no experience. Well, I don't think Byron Brown has an experience. I don't think Byron Brown's really been in these streets for a long time. In fact, I think Byron Brown has been on the top floors of all of the buildings that he's been giving away tax-free. And I want to break down what that means. When a building raises your property's value and it does not get taxed, who pays the taxes? You do, right? So you paying for all this down there. Now, how many people know somebody who works at the Harbor Center? How many people know somebody who works for Delaware North? In that building. You might know somebody who worked there, but they ain't working in that building. So when he talks about jobs, I don't know who he's talking about. Because I don't know anybody who's gotten a job from the Brown administration. Now, I know there's people out there, but they don't want to mess with me. And they don't want to mess with anybody who's been in the struggle in the city of Buffalo. So we have to rely on our experience, our lived experience, our community's experience, and that experience is cultural trauma. I know that people feel this city, because I feel this city. I feel it right now, and I know we're going to win. And I know everyone who was alive here, living here, felt when they knocked down 5,000 houses, when they turned these blocks into Swiss cheese, when they stole black homes from black people that they claimed to be saving. I know you felt it too. In 2017, when they started selling them back, when they started selling them back to slumlords and developers. You felt it in your rent. You felt it in your friends and family members dealing with rats, roaches, bed bugs, BMHA apartments. that have no hot water running to this day. I know you felt it. And I know everybody in this city, whether they want to admit it or not, they feel there's change coming. And they're scared. And they should be. Because we are here to bring the wealth, the resources, the vitality of this community back. And we're here to share it with everyone. And we're here to be a vehicle of change. And not the change that we think or the change that we see, but the change that needs to happen, because everybody here been on somebody's porch, been like, when they gonna fix this pothole? Oh man, how am I gonna make it to work tomorrow? Man, when is this bus gonna come on time? Man, I just missed the bus, I can't get a ride to work. Everybody has had those conversations. Everybody here gave some money to somebody who really needed it, gave them a place to stay, did what they had to do to survive in the trauma that has been the last 16 years of Buffalo, New York. And we have a chance to heal together. And we have a chance to will together, to put our collective will for the community that we know we can have. And to me, Buffalo is the most valuable land on this planet. Trust and believe, when it all goes down, people are gonna wanna be here. Marv Levy style, where would you rather be than right here, right now? And who would you rather have as your mayor than India Walton? A woman who has always stood up for what's best. Even in circles of people who call themselves progressive said, I'm sorry, I ain't progressive enough. That progress don't go far enough for me. A woman who has always challenged everyone around her to be better, to do better, and to understand who and why we are fighting. I'm honored. I'm getting chills every day seeing India's name all across the city and knowing that we're gonna do what we set out to do. What we set out to do at that Moot Center, what we set out to do walking around these streets. We're gonna do what we set out to do, but we need you. Because it feels good right here, but it ain't over. And they got a whole bag of tricks and all the money in the world, but money can't buy love. They can spend it, they can buy people. I've seen the canvassers out here, yeah. We vote for Byron Brown, you know? Let me get this check and go, right? I've seen the people at the polls walking up like, I'm voting for India, but don't tell nobody. And that's why we need you to be loud and proud about the fact that this is our city and that is our mayor. Whose city? Our city. Whose city? Our city. Whose city? Our city. Whose mayor? Our mayor. Whose mayor? Our mayor. Nah, y'all can do that. You can do better than that. You can do better than that. See, that was all right. That was good. That felt good. But I need everything you got. And I'm looking at everybody. I saw some people who, you just kind of chill in the back like, no. I'm telling everybody. Every mouth in here better be wide open when I say whose city, whose mayor. Now I want everybody to do it one time with everything they got. Whose city? Our city. Whose mayor? Our mayor.
Hey, it's Jordan. I'm in Buffalo. Really an awesome, fiery canvas for India Walton is kicking off. And I wanted to talk to you because you were speaking about just the basically controlled demolition of the working class here in Buffalo. What's your name? And talk about kind of your experience in Buffalo and why India and her election is so important.
Well, my name is John Washington, member Working Families Party on the state board and an organizer. As India said, I met India when we were running a campaign to start a land trust in the Fruit Belt because there are over 400 vacant lots just in this, from like that light to that light and 4 blocks that way, there are 400 vacant lots. And 200 were owned by the city, and we wanted to run a campaign to control them because people in this neighborhood have been taking care of those lots, and they watched as developers started to be able to buy them underneath their feet. Byron Brown ran a 5-and-5 program that was 5,000 demolitions over the course of 5 years. He continued after that program to demolish another 3,000 houses. And what he wanted to do was make this land shovel ready for developers. And it's part of the divestment scheme. He cut deals with Palladino, Sinatra, all these other developers around driving the price of property down while giving them away free tax breaks. And when Cuomo came in with the Buffalo Billion and all that, it flipped. And so we had a generation of homes that were demoed unnecessarily. Some of them did need to be, but it wasn't what the community said, right? It was what they wanted. It was the strategic places like right here, like the edge of the city. And that's why you see this is the emptiest part of the city. You go up to Hamlin Park, other places, you don't see that. And so it's incredibly strategic. It's part of how gentrification works. And India and I and many others fought hard for the past 10 years to push back against gentrification. And we had a lot of great ideas. And he was in the way of every single one of them. And I'm just so proud of her for being the one to step up and say, you know what, we're not going to struggle anymore. We're going to win, and we're going to run this city out of the abundance that is here, the 8,000 lots being used for food, fruit, whatever people in those neighborhoods want. And so I'm honored and excited and see this, as an extension of the work that we've been doing for a long time to take control of our city back from developers.
It's interesting. I've been in South Bend, Flint, Detroit. Same story everywhere. I call it economic terrorism, gentrification, because the media and the politicians frame it as like, oh, the Renaissance, the economic revival. Yeah, they're making like 10 to 15 blocks very pretty and leaving the rest of the city to rot. And I've just only been here for a few days, but I mean, there's parts of Buffalo that, are completely destroyed. While if you drive 15 minutes down the road, it's very nice. And basically, he has sold the city, from what I can see, to real estate developers.
He sold the city to real estate developers, and he's not getting anything back for it. We understand that sometimes politicians have to make tough decisions, but 117 buildings, hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, $8 billion from state funding. So gentrification is policy driven. It is driven by policies, and it is driven by the tax dollars and the money that is pulled out of the black bodies that got harassed on those same corners while white folks are getting paid to demo those houses. So we reject the idea that Byron Brown is about home ownership. What he's about is wealth. And he thinks that by building wealth for a few black people, it represents all of us with that talented sentimentality. And I know, because I've been homeless in Buffalo. I've seen people struggle in Buffalo. And I know that we actually are the talented people. We're the people who've been navigating, figuring out how to do all of this under duress, under a police state. And I can't wait to see the change. And we also know there's going to be a reaction. And we know that we're going to have to bring the people with us into the people's house that is City Hall.
Let me ask you, because I'm sure you've seen there's been a lot of, despair, hopelessness, anger with, progressive candidates that people think aren't fighting hard enough, this and that. Why are you so confident in India? We know her life story. She's come up, real obstacles, real difficult. Her slogan is real, Why do you think India Walton would be different than most people who run on X but get in there and maybe not deliver what they promise?
Because India is an organizer. And that's what you have to be a politician. It's not just about the professionalism. It's about organizing, building coalitions, building solidarity, understanding people's self-interest, and unfortunately cutting deals, right? Because we know that we're not going to start a revolution and there's have 60 years of one system, and we're not going to change it in 4 years. But India is an organizer, and she's going to bring people with her, and she doesn't think she has to solve this problem on her own because she didn't create it on her own. And the actual problem isn't even the position. The problem is the accessibility. The problem is, do people understand what they need to do to make their values real and what they need real in the world? And India can definitely solve that problem. And if you solve that problem, all the other problems will fall down because they are built and based on that one.
You can kind of tell people who aren't from Buffalo. Buffalo, for all its beauty in some areas, it's got a high poverty rate. Child poverty is bad. What are like the most urgent bleeding issues here that need, urgent fixing?
We have a worse lead crisis than Flint. We have the highest lead in the blood of children of any city in the country, and have for a while, for more 16 years at least. We have the oldest housing stock. We have an enormous booming homelessness problem that has not even been fully assessed. And then we have a child homelessness and child poverty problem. And India is a school nurse and a housing organizer. So, those are the two biggest problems to me, and I believe that we'll solve them.
And last question, some folks were talking about they're trying to steal it, they're trying to rig it. How do you win an election when there's Republican money pouring in? You mentioned Carl Palladino, Sinatra. These are Republicans, developers that are pouring money in to defeat her and back Byron Brown. We see write down Byron Brown everywhere. What is the blueprint to winning here on Tuesday?
The people. We're going to trust the people. We're going to trust that everybody we talk to, we're going to trust that we talk to the most people. We're going to trust that we've been building this movement for a long time. And we're going to trust people to do what's in their best interest and what we've what we work with them on. So I think it's not stopping, right? It's this right here. You know, it's not having big parties and campaign donations and trying to raise money. It's getting on these streets and making sure that these people know that their vote means something, because there's been a system in place for 60 years to disenfranchise every single voter in this city. And it's all about enfranchisement, building that power, and helping people understand that it's worth it to come out and vote, because we can win, because so many of them have been discouraged by how politics has
Why
worked
we
here for
do
a long
this.
time.
That, him, all of this is why we do this. You can't change anything if the masses don't see what's really going on. And that gentleman, Jonathan, I think his name is, he ain't gonna be on CNN. He's not getting quoted in the New York Times. He's not going to be able to speak for that long uninterrupted and actually tell the truth on a major national or local. Let's not forget how terrible local news is and local corporate outlets are. You probably know what I'm talking about wherever you live and your local media outlets. All of these outlets, national, local, they exist to keep the corruption alive. They exist to keep the facade going that communities like Buffalo are coming back and there's an economic revival and yada, yada, yada. That's the point of media. They're owned by the corporations that have economic interests in the continued gentrification and tale of two cities. So it's really invigorating for me as a journalist. I know nationally and online, everyone's deflated. Everyone's dejected. Everybody's cynical. Everybody's fed up. And I can't blame you. I mean, you saw my take on the progressives at the beginning of this live stream. But being on the ground and covering these campaigns and speaking with activists and speaking with the candidates, I interviewed India Walter the other day. This to me is where change will happen. This to me is where the most immediate changes would happen. And that is not only if somebody like India Walton were elected, and I'm not going to lie to you, I don't know. Everything all right? Huh? Okay. And, you know, I don't know if she's going to win. I don't know. A poll came out this week. She was down by a lot. I read the poll. It didn't, I don't put a ton of stock in it because the methodology mostly polled older people. Wasn't a huge sample size, but he's been the mayor for 16 years. He's got name brand recognition. From what I've seen, listening on radio and watching local news, the media is for Byron Brown. So it's a toss up. I mean, she might lose by a considerable amount or she might upset. So I can't predict it. I just don't know. I don't have a good feel for it. But what I do know is how actual change is going to come is on the ground through local elections, through workers organizing. We've been covering the Starbucks union effort here and speaking with workers. No way to charge it while we're live. Speaking with Starbucks workers who are trying to form a union here. The only way to not just electoral politics. Workers trying to form unions, going on strike, workers quitting. We're seeing all of it going on right now, and I think that is a real. I think that's a real manifestation of federal, national politics not doing anything to change this. Because what's going on in Buffalo, this gentrification is going on everywhere, and it doesn't get a lot of attention. The only candidate I've ever heard even talking about it nationally is Bernie. I think the term gentrification probably should come up with a different word because I think most people go to sleep when they hear the word. To me, it's economic terrorism. What do you call basically leaving people to live in fear whether they're going to be able to stay in their homes or apartments? What do you call leaving people in fear if they're going to be able to actually feed their children, buy medicine for themselves or their children? What do you call making people who were born and raised in certain communities living in fear that they're going to be forced out at any moment and God knows where we're going to go? That's fear and that's terrorism. It's not only brutal attacks. And it's also corruption, because most of these communities with gentrification, there's corrupt deals behind the gentrification. If you're watching and you live in Buffalo, and I mentioned the Buffalo billion, that's $1 billion that was supposedly to go to Buffalo to revitalize Buffalo. A lot of that money went into the donors' pockets of Byron Brown and former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who had to resign in disgrace. Still 5 minutes?
Good as
Okay. So I just want to give a couple more shout outs, because we're getting new signups and donations, not just the member signups, but people donating. So I really, really appreciate it. Welcome new Status Coup member Frederick. Welcome new Status Coup member Mike. So Frederick and Mike join Hollis, Margaret, Aaron, Donovan, Nicholas, Marshall, Stephen. That's 9 new Status Coup members today. Can we get one more to get 10? And by the way, we got 23 new Status Coup members yesterday. So that's 23 plus 9. So that's almost 23. So that's 32 new members in 2 days. And by the way, thank you. Part of why we got such a boost in membership yesterday was my interview with Kyle and Crystal on their podcast. Crystal, Kyle, and friends went out. So that's another big thing. I've been begging independent media to, frankly, please, when we're on the ground, when we are reporting, please have us on. And I really appreciate Crystal and Kyle having me on, because honestly, the suppression we've been dealing with on YouTube, where we're hidden, even our own subscribers don't see when we're live or know when we're live. It's really hurt us in terms of growing. So being able to go on shows that have bigger audiences, that aren't as suppressed, just so people know we exist. These 23 people who signed up as members yesterday probably didn't even know about Status Coup until they heard us, till they heard me with Crystal and Kyle. So that's, and I'm trying to get on with Brianna Joy Gray on Bad Faith. Tried to get on with Katie Halper. Try to get on with other shows. Mike from the Humanist Report, Dave with Rational National. Like, whether you love them all or not, whether you agree with them all at all times, doesn't matter. Independent media needs to support each other. Particularly, I hope independent media will start recognizing to elevate and help show this on the ground reporting. Don't do it for me. Do it for the communities. Do it for the stories. So I hope other bigger outlets will help. What do they call it? Give a signal boost to us. Fan, I am not really a new member. I just moved from the old system to the new one, but love your reporting and ranting. That's fine. We also do have a new system too. I don't know quite how to tell you to move from the old system to the new one. Jen does. Do you know?
Oh, just join as a member of the new one.
Okay, so basically, without frying your brains, long story short, we set up a brand new membership site, because the old one we were having problems with. Payments weren't going through, this and that. Nothing like with your money, nothing problematic if you're on the old system. But essentially, this one was more secure. Banks, with your payments, there was less fraud type stuff where banks wouldn't let the payments go through, and there's a lot more functionability with this new membership site. So we have told, if you're already a Status Coup member on the old site, definitely sign up for this new site, and you could cancel your membership on the old site. So what you would do is go to statuscoup.com/join. Colin? So if you're already been a member for a while, go to statuscoup.com/join. That will take you to the new site, sign up, and then how do you cancel your membership on the old site? Right.
There should be a cancel button. If you have issues, just email it.
Yeah. So there should be a cancel button on the current one. So if you have issues figuring it out, email us, info@statuscoup.com. But we're trying to shift people over to the new membership site, if that makes sense. So definitely sign up for the new one, statuscoup.com/fall, or join statuscoup.com/join. Easy enough to sign up. And then on the existing one, you should have a cancel button. But if you have any issues, info@statuscoup.com. So I think we're going to do one more thing before the battery dies. And oh, yes. Let me read some super chats too. Let me make sure I'm not missing anybody here. Oh, I also want to read people that have donated. You could donate through statuscoup.com/donate, statuscoup.com/donate. Thank you for the donations. Mario, $5. Brandon, $50. Thank you. Christine, $120. Thank you so much, Christine. Suzanne, $100. Thank you. Thank you. William, $20. Yesterday, Daniel, 25. Dora, 40. Adam, 25. Harlan, $20. Brooke, $20. Martin, $100. Diane, $50. Eric, $10. So thank you guys so much. I mean, you might not realize it, but you're helping us just break even, to be honest. Trust me, we're not making money on these trips, just to break even on the flights, hotels, rent-a-cars, all that stuff. Let me read super chats too. Hysteric reader, $5. They keep selling hopium. People are just not buying it anymore. You're right. Mario, $5. You should create your own chat or post these comments live. Hope you all get a travel bus. Your groundwork is inspiring, is important and inspiring. I don't know. What do you mean our own chat?
That was a donation.
Oh, got it. My dream was always an RV. My dream was always an RV. We just have not had the money for that, unfortunately. But still a dream to have a reporting bus. Das Bos Fleisch, €4.99. I wonder what the Democratic strategy to win the next election is. Do they even want to win? The Republican bad strategy won't help, I think. I think their strategy is to focus on January 6th. That's what it seems like. And Trump. Look at Virginia. Terry McAuliffe, he's not running on anything. He's a corrupt Democrat, and he's trying to make his opponent into Trump. His opponent is for what Trump is for, but I don't think that's going to win. And as of now, it looks kind of dicey that McAuliffe is going to win. Steve, $4.99. Great work, Status Coup. Solidarity with all strikers. Perhaps a boycott of Starbucks is in order. There's other places to buy your coffee. Hey, these workers trying to organize aren't calling for that, but that could happen down the road if Starbucks keeps these heavy-handed these heavy-handed tactics, which we're going to go into in a minute. Welcome, new YouTube member, DKH926203. Thank you. Gabby, $5. Great interview as always. Love the show. Thank you so much. No Sleep, new member. Welcome to the fight. Gabby, new member. Welcome. Fly Chopper Fly, $5. I love Nina Turner, but she said she was going to make sure to prevent what happened to her would never happen to anyone else. What about India, Nina? Yeah, I mean, I don't know what Nina Turner could do per se, like to stop rigging in Buffalo. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think she meant what she said, but I don't really know what she could do per se to stop attempts for rigging in Buffalo. To me, that's a broader project, which would probably involve an organ. I was saying to Colin yesterday, it's really a shame. The progressive movement needs one massive organization that goes in every election. Money, door knocking, phone banking, has their own media apparatus to reach local voters. And they don't have it. Like, I guess our revolution was supposed to be that, technically. Didn't work. Progressive movement needs a centralized organization to go in for important elections and be that mechanism for not just financially, but for organizing and canvassing and reaching community members, particularly the non-voters who tend not to vote. That would be a huge plus. Noah, 1999, please speak on if we could ever trust these progressives ever again if they vote for this bill and continue to gaslight us about Biden and what is in the bill. Yeah, I mean, actions speak louder than words, right? So if progressives vote in for the COVID relief bill, they voted for it, even though Biden moved a $15 minimum wage out of it preemptively. Just folded, didn't even fight for a $15 minimum wage, pretended that, oh, the parliamentarian says we can't have it, so we can't do it, right? Remember that? They haven't fought for a $15 minimum wage since then, or held out their vote for it. Go down the list. They haven't really, other than a couple of weeks ago, refusing to vote for the 1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure deal, which is just, by the way, a privatization scheme. Other than refusing to vote for that, without the 3.5 trillion reconciliation deal, which I gave them credit then while saying there was still time for them to fold, which unfortunately seems like they're going to do. But can you trust them? I guess not. They haven't shown that they're going to actually, when it counts, use their power, use their votes, use their leverage to vote down shit legislation and actually exert power by saying, here are our red lines. We will not vote for this if X, Y, and Z is not in that, and actually do it. So no, you can't trust them. I'm not telling you, I'm not telling you hate them. I'm not telling you we're all frauds and sellouts. I think many of them truly believe what we believe, but no, they have not shown that they're willing to go beyond just believing the same things as us, to actually play hardball politics and be willing to be villainized, be willing to be painted by the media and the Democratic Party as political arsonists. Well, you know what? If you are committing arson on behalf of the working class, then do it, because the working class will be behind you. So unfortunately, Noah, they haven't shown that you could trust them, though. Not you could trust them that they believe in these things. You can't trust them they're actually going to fight hard for it. No, you can't, unfortunately. So before we go, I want to show a little bit more of our reporting, because you might have not seen a lot of this, being that YouTube is hiding us. Let's get to the Starbucks workers, Colin, before we end. In addition to oh, no, not the Starbucks, the nurses. So yesterday, you might have not seen it because YouTube hides us. We went down to Mercy Hospital, where we interviewed workers. There are 2,000 hospital workers at Mercy hospitals that are on strike. So we went down there and spoke with a couple of them. And this is another thing that I think is invigorating. Obviously, we're not getting much electoral politics. So it's really, really important to be on the ground to show you the Starbucks workers that are striking, the John Deere workers that are striking, the hospital workers that are striking. Well, Starbucks forming a union, not striking. So I went down there and I was really, really, really inspired and invigorated by the hospital workers who are on strike, who have risked their lives for almost 2 years now to save lives from COVID. Let's show you, and keep signing up, by the way. We want to get more members while we're live. I hope watching this, you will be inspired to sign up as a Status Coup member. Let's take a look.
We're in front of Mercy Hospital, where hospital workers have been striking, I guess, for a month now, right? Yeah, a month. And kind of let's start from the beginning. Obviously, the pandemic. Before the pandemic, conditions were probably not so swell. The pandemic accelerated that. Talk about what was going on in here in terms of staffing, understaffing, kind of chaos, or whatever you could share.
Before the pandemic, the staffing was like getting rough, but I still had like the 1 to 5, 1 to 6, sometimes 1 to 7, but that was like on a rough night. And then right after the pandemic started, like last year or whatever, I started getting like more patients. I'd be like 1 to 8, and I'm like, oh, that sucks. And now we're up to like 1 to 10 on nights, and I'm like, oh my God, I have 10. But then when we have 8, I'm like, blessed, I have 8 patients today. Like, I shouldn't be saying that. Having 8 patients is not okay to take care of. They're all sick. They all need something. I'm not passing meds. I'm not finishing passing my med pass until like 12 o'clock. People want their pain meds and they're waiting for hours because I'm like, I can't come back to you right now. Or they're sitting in their stool and their urine for hours because I can't change them. There's no staff to help me change them and roll them. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm going to come back to you like on my next round.
In addition to the understaffing, did you have enough equipment for yourself to be safe?
No equipment. We didn't have urinals. Sometimes the beds don't work, which is ridiculous because we can't put the bed alarm on someone. How are we going to know they're going to get up, And then we're supposed to round like hourly, but that's not happening when we're having 10 patients, 8 patients, It just,
I went to even empty a urinal and get a patient cleaned up, and there weren't even gloves. And that wasn't even just in that room. I went to a neighboring room, and there weren't gloves. So then I went to my cart where I was having my medications, and there weren't gloves.
Talk about this hospital. Every hospital is different. Some are nonprofits, but still are making money hand over fist. I assume Mercy Hospital has been doing fairly well over the years, while basically leaving you guys to makeshift urinals and no staff. What's the hospital been doing in terms of profit?
Honestly, I'm not quite sure. I know they're have to be kind of making some kind of money because they're building a new hospital, like in Lockport or like another town over. So clearly they have some kind of money somewhere, but they can't allocate it to the staff. They're going to allocate it somewhere else.
So they've specifically said, like, oh, you're doing such a good job. We're getting, like, letters from patients saying you're doing a good job. So it's almost like, even though we're still doing a good job and we still care and we're still trying hard, it's more of like, because you can, you have to.
Like on my floor specifically, they added an extra room. So what it used to be a room for like to do echoes, like and like heart, whatever ultrasounds, and somehow the next day I came back and they switched it to a patient's room, so they can add more patients. So we're originally like a 48 bed unit, and then they added the extra room, and I ask people, I'm like, how is this possible when we don't even have the staff to take care of the 48 patients we have now? The COVID patients are horrified. They're so scared because like they're stuck in isolation. Their family members can't visit them. Like I can't imagine like this is the face that they see, and it's not even like my face. It's like a mask and like a full gown PPE screaming to them because they can't hear me. Because whether they have a high flow mask, like it's like this hot air blowing up your nose, like at like 100% oxygen, like it's painful, it's super loud, it can get sweaty for them, like they're uncomfortable, they're crying, they miss their family, they just want to get better. It's sad. It's a sad sight.
And normally, like, we could have the honor of being one of those visitors and people to take care of those patients, considering they can't have family, they can't have visitors. Some of them don't even have smartphones to like FaceTime family. My grandfather was actually recently here on a COVID unit, and the fact that he didn't have visitors for nearly 2 weeks, and the staff taking care of him was the only people that he saw for that amount of time. That is just very unfortunate that we don't even have the time to see.
It doesn't sound like the staff could adequately care.
Right. It's basically like factory line working, going through a patient at giving them their meds, giving their assessment. I can't even like have a full-blown conversation. I'm like, oh, are you in pain? How are you feeling? Like, I'll ask my orientation questions, and that's like basically the conversation.
You guys are going on 30 days. It's not easy to go on strike. Obviously, it seems like they're threatening your benefits now, your health care, important for healthcare workers. What has been their response? Do you think they're operating in good faith? Are they negotiating in good faith? Have they basically told you to take a hike? What has been the response?
Personally, I don't think they're bargaining in good faith. They're like from the union and like the bargaining team. I don't really like speak for them, but like I know like they'll post like, oh, we're still waiting for Catholic Health to come up. Like they're do no call no shows. Like the bargaining team is waiting hours on hours for whoever the bargaining team for Catholic Health is to come and talk to them. And
not showing up.
Yeah, they don't show up, or they show up at like 2 o'clock in the morning. Like here you go. Like you can't expect someone to like read this whole paperwork and say, yeah, this is okay. At 2 o'clock in the morning, like you need to be sleeping, you know. Yeah. And then like our environmental staff, the people who are like cleaning the COVID rooms, cleaning everybody's rooms, cleaning like the blood and guts off operating tables, like they're paid like $13 an hour. That's not even minimum wage. They can go to Tim Hortons and make $20 an hour and not have to deal with the risks that they're doing here, you know.
So talk to the audience. Obviously, understaffing. What are some of the other demands you guys have been making?
In the beginning, they proposed to take away like our health insurance. They wanted to give us a high deductible health insurance. They wanted to do that. They didn't want to give us like a huge wage increase. Oh, and they wanted to get rid of our pension. So like, yeah. So like all the senior nurses, not only are they're not getting the wage, their pension is being frozen. And like, what?
You know, I'm not in the industry, but I could imagine like one wrong decision could mean a life or death. One wrong administering a medication or something not sterilized or whatever. So if you're running around like insanity, 8 patients when you should have like 4, mentally, physically stretched thin, who's going to suffer? Patients.
Right. Literally, exactly. Like with the 10 patients I have, I'm like focusing on 10 million tasks. Like I'm good at multitasking, but like if I have like 3 critical patients that are all sick, like you can't manage them all. And like I'm scared to death I'm going to miss something. I go home at the end of my shift and I'll text my coworkers, hey, did I miss something? Like what's going on with this patient? Are they okay? Like should I call the doctor like sooner? Like what is going on? You know, it's like, and like it's our license on the line. And if like something happens like detrimental, whose fault is that? Is it going to be my fault, the nurse who's running around with their chicken, like the head of the chicken cut off, whatever that terminology is, or is it the hospital's fault because they're not adequately staffing us? Like this probably wouldn't have happened if I had 5 patients.
And what has been going on during this staff? Do they have like enough replacement work during this strike? Do they have enough replacement workers?
Oh yeah, they are hired by Huffmaster. So
Huffmaster, that's a whole nother story, but yeah, they are a preeminent strikebreaker company. Yeah.
So the nurses are making around $150 an hour. In the beginning, they were able to choose like this is what we just heard, that like they were able to not have COVID patients. Like they were like, no, I don't want to take care of COVID patients, and they were only taking like 5 patient assignments. So it's like, how can you have this staffing ratio for the striker or for the scabs essentially, but you can't do it for your own staff?
Can you kind of talk about what it's been like energy-wise and solidarity-wise here on strike?
Solidarity is there. We're still strong. The community has been outstanding. We get community support almost every day. All the different labor unions and stuff have come by. A lot of the politicians have stopped and, just told us that, stay strong. And I think we've gotten people from out of state that have come in and told us that, they're very pleased with what we're doing, that our fight here is not only for here, but it's nationwide to help healthcare. So it does make us feel better that what we're doing is bigger than us. So it, makes us a little prouder for what we're doing. I mean, I think it's a shame that healthcare has come to this and that the hospital's making us go through this and that they can't just settle this contract.
Can you kind of talk about personally for you, because they were telling me horror stories about 10 patients and urinals not working and all this. I mean, what's it been like, particularly during the pandemic? It sounds like you guys are doing the job of 7 to 10 people each.
Well, I work on a surgical floor, an ambulatory surgical floor, so a lot of our surgeries were shut down. So we got, during the pandemic, so, we got sent all over to floors that we're not used to working. Myself, I was on phone calls talking to family members just to reassure them, and it was just heartbreaking to listen to the stories that you hear from them, that, how bad it was that they couldn't come in and visit their loved ones. And I said, I could not even imagine if, my husband or my family were here and I couldn't be there for them. So it was nice to be able to just say, we're here, we're doing the best we can, we're taking care of them.
It sounds like they have money to have adequate staffing, equipment. So is this just your dime a dozen story of corporate greed? Why can't they provide you with the proper supplies and staffing?
I don't understand why they can't. I mean, the hospital, I'm sure, everybody took a hit during COVID, but the government also came through and bailed a lot of people out. So, and my understandings were that, they were told, maybe can we go to the government and ask, and they didn't need help at that time. So, I don't know why we can't get what we need, because there's no reason that, because this has not been just the pandemic. This has been going on for years. Most of it is the staffing issues and the lack of respect from, your senior members here. Your frontline managers and stuff, they're in the battle with us, so a lot of times they can kind of understand. But like we call them the ivory tower people, some of these CEOs, you don't see them walking the floors, you don't see them coming down and seeing a day-to-day life for us. So how do you sit in a corporate office and make all these decisions without coming down and seeing what's going on in the real world here?
And who suffers? The patients. Workers, I don't know, it seems like a sleeping giant has kind of been awoken. The electoral system, in my opinion, is a fucking disaster. So what do you think is going on that's kind of giving these workers, you guys, the drive to just say enough?
I think it's just the fact that it is enough. You've done it. I've worked in this hospital for over 40 years.
40 years?
40 years.
Wow, I buried the lead. I should have asked. It's a long time.
So, and I've seen a lot of changes here. When we started, it was more like a family, facility, and we just turned into a corporate facility. And then all you see is a corporate greed, and it just eats at you and eats at you. And then it comes to a point where you can't take it anymore. And then you see other people saying, it's not just you. We can't take it anymore either. So it kind of gives you the strength to say, we're not alone. And, it's just like the commercial, we've had enough. We can't take it
So that
anymore.
was a couple hospital workers, nurses. Karen worked in the surgical floor. It's really inspiring to see. And by the way, you might have not seen in that, but in the live stream, you could see it because we were live yesterday. The workers that are on strike literally have to go in circles for hours on their strike shift, that's the rules, because it would be loitering if they just stood outside the hospital. So you literally have these workers like zombies going around in circles outside Mercy Hospital, because that's the only way they'd be allowed to strike. So some of them said, yeah, we're basically walking miles, going around in circles for hours. So this is what is happening on the ground in America. We showed you in Iowa and Illinois with our John Deere reporting. Now in Buffalo, the Starbucks workers trying to form a union, the hospital workers on strike, the India Walton campaign. There's something going on. There's an energy going on among workers that needs to spread everywhere, because frankly, I think we're seeing it. There's always so much we're going to get electorally. That doesn't mean totally check out electorally. I think candidates like India Walton are worth supporting. I'm sure there's local candidates in your area that are worth supporting. But what it does mean is the Democratic Party is not going to save you. Frankly, progressives, if they keep folding like cheap tents, they're not going to save us either. We need to fight for ourselves. So it's good to see these workers striking. Before we wrap up, I want to give more shout outs. Hold on. 222. We have another super chat, by the way. Self-taught artist, $25. Love you, Status Coup. We love you. Before we go, I think we just got a new Status Coup member. Welcome, Bill. So Bill joins Frederick, Mike, Hollis, Margaret, Aaron, Donovan, Nicholas, Marshall, Stephen. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 new Status Coup members just today. I believe we had 23 yesterday, so that's 33 in 2 days. You could sign up as a member 24/7, so don't be shy. As well as some donations we got outside of Super Chat. So thank you, Mario, $5, Brandon, 50, Christine, 120, Suzanne, 100, and a couple others I already read. We've been going for a while now, so we got to end so we could eat and pee. And by the way, on the road, I've been running every single day on the elliptical, trying to stay in shape, because it's exhausting being on the road. For today is day 12. We've not taken a break other than flying, which that was a job in itself. I've done members videos just on our flights and flights getting canceled. So, by the way, for our new members, if you don't know, go to statuscoup.com and hover over member content. Hover over become a member, and you will see the tab for become a member. Sorry. Go to statuscoup.com if you're a new member or any member. Hover over if you're an old member.
That's only the new members at statuscoupmember.com.
Oh, I'm confused. Okay. If you're a new member, go to statuscoupmember.com. So new members, statuscoupmember.com, and that will give you access to our member content, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a member button.
So there's a member button, and you'll get access to our content, which includes our behind the scenes videos, behind the scenes photos. For old members, statuscoup.com, hover over, become a member, and you'll see member content. Hopefully we're going to streamline this because it's a bit confusing, but we did just create a brand new member site. So if you're a brand new member, statuscoupmember.com, statuscoupmember.com, hover over member, and you'll see our member content. Thank you for watching. We will be here through the election on Tuesday, so we'll be back at it tomorrow, covering what's going on the ground, and we'll see you a little bit later. Peace.